Good combo.
It's alright. Oh, that goes a hit low.
You thought it was sweet.
No!
Oh! Stop this bitch!
Stop it!
Stop it!
That was sick!
That was sick!
Why did they give her that? Why did they give her that?
Free!
That's a ball! Why?
Find Samuel Jackson, he's dancing with the stars tonight.
Good games, guys. Good games.
Kiss!
What did you just watch? If you know me in real life before seeing this, you know I'm the person on the right. That person's name is Matthew Hogan, me. In the realm of the fighting game community, in the realm you just witnessed, I am Monkey Business. In this realm, in this nation of fighting games, as Monkey Business, I've done many things. I've traveled across the country and to other countries to compete in fighting game tournaments, gather footage for this video essay documentary you're viewing now. I've recorded almost a dozen formal interviews. I've composed viral tweets, made tutorial videos. I have commentated and broadcasted local and regional fighting game events and tournaments.
There is so much that can happen in these next
10 seconds.
Yes!
Doug takes
Woo! Let's go, Doug! Oh!
Even since high school, which I graduated from in May of 2015, I've been organizing fighting game events too. I've been a ringleader in wild hype crowd chants. I even appeared on a reality TV show that merges the worlds of esports and fighting games. It was Machinima's Chasing the Cup. And as of recently and in my future, I'll be streaming fighting game content on Twitch as an entertainer. I found the hobby to be quite sustainable since I started playing competitively in 2013. And this is not just because I walk away profiting from some regional tournaments I attend and compete in, but because of what anybody in the fighting game community can tell you. That this is one of the most satisfying and fulfilling hobbies a person can ever have. But what is a fighting game anyway? This is a question that has been asked and answered in most other documentary works in the fighting game community, so I'll let one of them answer it.
A fighting game is a game where you play versus your opponent, usually using some sort of physical attacks against each other, and the goal is to drain the opponent's life bar to 0.
2 men enter or 2 women enter, and one leaves, one emerges the champion.
2 different people, 2 different skill sets thrown in one area together and seeing who comes out on top. And we both have a different outlook on how we're going to go about certain things, and skill sets being what we do in the game, whether we pick a certain character or the tactics inside the game.
It's about outthinking your opponent and out-strategizing them, and it's really a lot of it is very psychological. I think that's one of the things a lot of people don't realize about fighting games is all you see is the buttons and the joystick and what the character's doing on screen. But the thing that you really miss out on is how much is going through a person's head when they're playing, how much they're trying to figure out what the psychology is. Is this a defensive opponent? Is this an offensive opponent? Does he get scared easily? Is he reckless?
It gets to this point where we have these competitions and you're playing against these people that play for hours and hours and hours each day, and they're in each other's heads as they're playing, and you can actually see it happen. It's great. When there's a good match, you can see in each player's head, and beautiful things happen.
A fighting game is something that you experience not just by yourself, but with friends, with enemies, with people that you love, people that you hate. That's really what a fighting game is. It's like the embodiment of everything that you try to do to outdo another person. It's like you want to be out on top. You want to, it's competition. You want to be the best. You want to be able to outsmart everybody. You want to be able to show everyone that you have the skills, you want the fame, you want the fortune.
It needs to have a way to put yourself in the game with the character that you love. It needs to have the head-to-head. It needs to have the saltiness. It needs to have the, I need to beat this guy I'm sitting next to.
If it's got 2 life bars and whoever loses their life bar first and one emerges and then you do it over again, you probably got a fighting game.
What a fighting game is not my subject. My goal with this piece is to analyze something a lot more complicated, but something that matters much more to me. I saved the best thing about my time in the fighting game community for last. It is what I'll be analyzing. It is community. The fighting game community has provided me dozens of friends, hundreds of acquaintances, and thousands of people to interact with on a daily basis. Even if these friends move across the country or across the globe, fighting game community events provide a resource to maintain those friendships easily. But it's fairly common knowledge among people in the fighting game community that the best part of the FGC is the local offline scene. Among competitive video games, the local offline scene is unique to fighting games. It has its roots in the arcade era of the 1990s, where online competition simply did not exist. The tradition survives to this day as a core value of the community. The spirit, energy, and hype that one can feel at an offline fighting game event is frankly numinous. The local scene is a community of individuals. In a fighting game, you can only represent yourself. They are 1 versus 1 games. But the force of each individual coming together turns the local offline scene of competitive individuals into a team when they choose to travel to another event in another region. There's a saying in the scene that you are only as strong as your strongest opponents. Everybody benefits from their rivals and training partners getting better, and one way to make your rivals and training partners get better is to get better yourself. So the people in the scene that make the sacrifices they need to show up to some place week after week know that they're all contributing to the improvement and growth of themselves and the other people in the scene. For me, this is just a reiteration. This is nothing new, but it needs to be stated simply in this introduction because this feeling of community and scenehood is exactly what's being threatened in the contemporary era. Enter esports. A misleading name derived from corporate interest, which is used to convince investors that what we're doing here with competitive video games can be easily associated with the riches of sports broadcasting. In his video essay, Analysis: The Need for Community, Core A Gaming very quickly summarizes the origin of the intersection between esports and the fighting game community, and the schism that it may create.
Esports is kind of like Hollywood. When a player or game rises to stardom in the FGC, they'll get invited to other seemingly cooler and more exclusive inner rings.
Justin Wong is free.
Rumor has it their bathrooms are never used as temples, and they have rituals called invitationals that only allow a select few stars to participate, increasing their screen time and attracting more sponsors. A lot about these esports inner rings will overlap with the FGC, but their gatekeepers, symbols, and values are going to be different.
Hit him in that Krispy Kreme gut. Okay, nice kick, Chuck.
As esports circles focus more on invitationals while the FGC continues their 1,000-person open competitions, there's going to be a values debate between the two. And on some level, there's a you versus the guy she told you not to worry about situation because she's now spending time with guys whose parents are worth up to $28 billion. But the question is, do you be more like him, or do you keep doing you? If enough community influencers disagree on values, there could be a schism.
But what specific forces could cause this schism? Where do the fighting game communities and esports values differ? These key differences have been individually discussed in other community videos before mine, but for this video, I'd like to organize them all on the screen at once to show the scale of the difference. First, the FGC is a participatory community, where esports is more of a fan community. Fighting games necessitate being social. The FGC has a preference for prestige, where esports has a preference for scale of money won. The FGC is decentralized and deregulated, while esports is ruled by governing bodies in corporate form. The fighting game community has a historical taste for urban grassroots, where esports has a taste for wealth and exuberance in its events. Perhaps most significantly, the FGC has a preference for personality, fun, and a bit of chaos, where esports has a taste for mute professionalism out of its participants. The sixth factor is the FGC's inclusivity for gender and race diversity at all levels of its productions, versus esports' conventional sports broadcasting race and gender roles. The FGC was racially diverse from the start, while esports was not. Both the FGC and esports still need improvement in gender inclusivity, but the FGC is leading the way in that regard much faster than esports. All these factors combine to create two very distinct communities, but their clash in this era was still inevitable. It is a fact that fighting games, with their easy-to-watch gameplay, draw crowds, and it's a fact that crowds draw money.
When you look at the progression of things, it was always going to be this way, in time, as esports are the next big thing. It's only going to get more esports from here on out. Video games are a bigger industry than Hollywood now. I mean, it's just the next logical step, I think. You know?
It certainly is the next logical step for esports companies, which is why we've been seeing so much action over the past few years. But for the FGC, treading into esports needs to be very careful next steps, because if any esports organization misunderstands us, they will misrepresent us. And one of the most important things for them to understand about us is that we are a participatory community, and the importance of this has already been wildly misunderstood by some figureheads at the top of esports. To clarify what I mean when I say participatory, is that participatory means we have open bracket events that anybody can enter, open scenes that anybody can join and regularly practice and hang out in, and widely open social structure that allows any person in any scene to join up in a carpool and go to an open bracket tournament where anybody can play anybody in bracket, whether it's the worst person in the tournament fighting the best in round 1. No matter what, the double elimination bracket will determine who the best player at the event is.
For example, if you lost your first match in Tekken 7 at EVO this year, you would have had to win 21 matches in a row to become champion. In contrast, if you never lost, you would have only had to play 12 matches to win. This means if you're going to lose a match, you want it to happen later in the tournament so you don't spend as much time in the loser's bracket. The third reason it sucks to be in the loser's bracket is if you manage to make it to the grand finals, you have to face the winner of the winner's bracket. This is bad for you because the winner of the winner's bracket only needs to win one set against you to become champion, while you must win twice.
Following this system, we guarantee ourselves infinite chances for anyone, including you, in the community, to rise up and prove themselves against even top sponsored players. The open bracket double elim tournament guarantees shock and hype and upsets and fun. Almost nobody can be fully prepared for everybody. There's a crazy amount of variables, and that's what makes the fact that some players are still consistently winning even more impressive.
It's a fundamental aspect of the community, is that there's so many players now in 2019 in any most recent game that came about because tournaments are open bracket. I mean, it's one of the few things, again, that allow for a level of global competition where you can enter in and play someone who's the best in the world. You could play Tokido, you could play, you know, whoever coming to a big tournament, and there's no barrier to entry. You can't go to a basketball game and get a group of people and try to play the Lakers on, you know, in their stadium, you know. So there's a beauty in that. The fact that there's always some lingering dark horse. You know, it's a representation of the populace of people who play this game. So when you make the community more geared towards invite only, you know, I don't know, it sucks. I think it's bad. Yeah. There's obviously with E-League and stuff like that, like they're doing super high money, so it makes sense to only do a collection of like really big players.
And that also contributes to the whole celebrity thing. That
right, celebrity culture. But at the end of the day, we're just people playing games, you know, and that's something I realized too when my skill level increased to the point where I could play the players that are celebrities and I could beat them. I'm like, they're just people. You know what I mean? We're all just people. We're humans. So it's just like whatever, you know, like.
Around the time of Street Fighter V at E-League, top esports personalities had a conversation about the fighting game community without having any understanding of how the community works. This is what it read like. Richard Lewis, one of the tweeters you read before, was the host for Street Fighter V's E-League. E-League would have, in its Street Fighter V Invitational, a different rule set which applied specifically to the Grand Finals part of the tournament. These different rules were likely to promote the event on television and make it more entertaining, but it made the second place finisher, Phenom, and much of the community feel cheated out of a real tournament set.
But the thing is, he just beat me once, and then they gave him the trophy.
I know, especially for like CSGO, I know like a lot of these guys are like amazing, like Shroud and Meister, like they're all amazing, but like once you guys retire, who's next?
Right.
Who's next? With us, it's like local gatherings, like I said, watching me come up and like I said, some of our players, like watching like Jesse is a monster now.
Yeah.
Like watching us get better, this is what happens. We're all growing. We all want to be good. So the fact that you're like, oh yeah, no, you're playing this lower level that'll bring you down. Like, no, this is how you get better. And it seems, and people don't understand, like, yeah, to get better, you're gonna get dumpstered on. It has to happen. It happened to me, it happens to everybody. So it's like, that's something you gotta go through.
But it guarantees equity of opportunity for everybody that wants to maybe try to make something of themselves in the community through their play. This practice of ours does not align with esports' objective, which is to create celebrity players so that potential sponsors can be confident that their players will get as much screen time as possible. This is a similar point to the previous one, but with a slightly different focus. I'll let Korea Gaming take it.
There's also a certain prestige associated with being the best of 1,000 players that can't be replicated by simply offering large amounts of prize money.
You know, the money is a lot more than Evo, but the prestige of winning Evo is so much bigger than this.
This isn't to say there is no role for more esports-oriented leagues, just that much of the culture surrounding competitive fighting gaming relies on an open format. By allowing anyone to enter, it necessarily becomes an inclusive activity, which aligns with its arcade roots that ignored socioeconomic differences by allowing anyone with a quarter to participate. This is how an American pro wrestler can get matched up with a Korean Tekken Grandmaster in a high-stakes tournament.
Korea Gaming did a great job by choosing Punk as a means to explain this, but I think this tweet from Marn, shortly after Punk got second at EVO 2017, which was after winning E-League, the Invitational, where Punk won $150,000, but nowhere near as much prestige as he wanted to win at EVO. Marn, trying to comfort Punk after his heartbreaking loss, said, "At least you made a lot of money." Punk, a real community member, said, "I don't care about the fucking money, I wanted the trophy."
Having a governing body is a tricky one. On top of this being a fun thing, a lot of people are trying to make it a business. That's what you're trying to do, and I'm trying to do that, and people in this artist alley are doing the same.
My art intertwining with the FGC and the community sort of happened when I picked up Street Fighter 4 and I played Yang. Now I really liked Yang, he's my boy, I miss him so much. No, that's about when my life became imbued with Street Fighter, and so my art and Street Fighter have been inextricably intertwined ever since then. And since I've gotten better, I've been able to take commissions and stuff, doing fight stick artwork for people, and people have asked me to do art for stream overlays, stuff like that. Twitch emotes, I've done a couple. Cool. And I don't know, I just like breathing like my own sort of life into the characters, giving them my own little interpretations.
Tournament organizers, the teams, the players, we like it, it's fun, but we also want it to be a business. We're a group, but it's of many different parts. So I want to make sure that we don't have a king, right? That's from a business sense, it's a risk. From a personal sense of enjoying things, I like having the different styles. I don't want to see that stuff go away. So I like being decentralized.
This conversation of decentralization will come back into play later when we discuss how different tournaments can have different goals. This one comes right out of the arcade roots. In the 1990s arcade golden age of fighting game, arcades were only present in cities, and so scenes developed around cities.
And let's be honest, FGC is a little poverty,
Yeah. Over here. Oh, can you see it on the monitor? FGC poverty over here.
Literally, you had to tone down your skill versus certain players because it was literally a threat, to your well-being.
We didn't want to be like, oh, we got next to put our quarter up, and they'd be like, no, you don't got next. We didn't want to deal with it.
Yeah, Battle by the Gazebo. Have you ever heard about that tournament series?
No.
That was a real thing in New York City once upon a time, where they were playing Melty out at a gazebo outside.
A fucking gazebo?
Yeah, they were literally playing Melty out there in a gazebo. It was incredibly godlike. They just had like a power strip. Yeah, it was like Jayuna whenever Jayuna was still down in New York City.
Wow.
And then you had a whole bunch of like anime FGC boys. And because they couldn't really find space in whatever arcade was at the time, they just played their tournament out in Aozai. It was really FGC. You could look up the footage. It's like actually still out there.
What's up, guys? We're at BBG 5. We're in the evening here. Got a huge crew. Still here chilling. MVP from the team tournament. Knocking out 4 heads by himself. Almost beating the 5th one. My problem is I can't. All right, we got. No. Oh shit! I gotta start. Should have been Happy Meal. Yeah. Get that Happy Meal, guys.
Away.
Grassroots forever.
Flex Red Bull.
Grassroots forever. Red Bull.
No, fuck grassroots. Cement roots. We on the parking lot.
While the fighting game community enjoys fighting for space, playing in McDonald's parking lots, hotel bathrooms, or basement dungeons, esports tries its very hardest to sell out well-lit stadiums which, when combined with esports top-down governance, will always look and feel the same. You may ask, why does the FGC like to fight for space? And my answer is because it reaffirms our heritage and roots. The FGC can fill a stadium, but we only want to do that at one tournament per year, Evolution. This is a really big one, and it manifests in many different ways. In the old FGC days, this often manifested as machismo. It's easy to see why the FGC acted so tough and machismo in the early days, because articles like this New York Times one call them outcasts for hanging out at arcades in the first place. This tough guy stuff played out in both playful and toxic ways. First, the playful.
Wow. Okay, the fans. Oh, the crowd goes wild. Oh!
That might be a yellow card.
Oh!
That might be a yellow card.
Unnecessary pepperonis.
GG
5 yards. Oh my!
That could be a double yellow card.
Internet.
He's taking it.
Whoa!
He is not removing
look at
the
him
shirt.
laughing. Ho, ho, ho. Oh my goodness.
Double
Oh!
shot.
Oh, the crowd goes wild.
Unprecedented. Unprecedented.
Evolution 2015. Internet.
Let's please cut to the game screen.
Two
There's a lot of
fans.
jiggling going on that
fans.
stage.
Now for the toxic. This 2007 interview with Mike Chaos. The language and gestures they use are reminiscent of the East Coast versus West Coast hip-hop rivalry.
Are we rolling? Are we rolling?
Right here, dog.
Zach, get everybody. Get everybody.
You got anything to say about like Team West Coast Duck and anything? No, you know what? Fuck all that shit. I'm gonna go straight to the East Coast bitches. Alright, first of all, I'm gonna start with that fat ass Asian bastard, Justin Wong. Okay, first of all, that nigga sucks a big ass fat dick. Okay?
This shit right now.
Yeah, I hope you guys are watching this motherfucking bullshit. Okay? Mike Chaos is bringing the motherfucking chaos to Evo. Alright? I want all you motherfuckers over there to know that shit. I looked at every one of your bitch asses when you were down here. You didn't do shit. Okay?
Talk shit about Zephyr while he was on
I took your fucking dirty ass, stinky looking bum with that big long ass fucking lip of his that drags all the fucking way down to the damn ground. And I fucking got into his head. That fool's fucking shit garbage too. I don't give a fuck how much damn money he won off a duck. All you fucking dirt motherfuckers suck. Okay?
Hey, what about that nigga Josh Wick? That's what everybody's talking the shit about. They're talking about Josh Wick confronting me.
Hold on a minute. Wait a minute. You know what? We're gonna get to that. I got another fat ass motherfucker on my agenda too. All right.
One more game.
Okay. Now that motherfucker Yipes is retarded. Okay. How you gonna play a motherfucking game and get tired? This nigga huffing and puffing during the match. I can hook your ass up on a damn weightlifting program.
Nigga got the nigga Bacardi talking about he want to scrap. Nigga got my whole squad. What you got? Nigga, you a bitch.
Yeah, exactly. Now I'm gonna address that little bitch ass motherfucker Josh Whip. Is this shit really good on me? Is this shit really good on me? Next time you fuck with this nigga, I'm gonna beat your fucking ass. Alright? So you better fucking come strapped, bitch. I'm gonna fucking hurt you. I'm gonna hurt you. And that's the fucking end of it. Faggot. Send that shit.
This is from 2007. The language is brutal, violent, uninclusive, and generally repulsive. Mike Chaos was clearly a white dude who thought being in the FGC gives him an N-word pass. The phrase "comes strapped" insinuates gun violence, but they're actually still talking about being competitive in a video game. This would not fly in the community today, which is why it's so surprising that the man behind the camera is none other than Mike Ross. Mike Ross would become the biggest star in the fighting game community from around 2009 to probably 2016. He would host a weekly Twitch broadcast show licensed by Capcom called Capcom Pro Talk. He would even go on to commentate Evolution 2016 alongside Seth Killian. But at the end of it all, suddenly, in 2017, Mike Ross would destroy his public presence in the fighting game community, being disillusioned with esports and the future of the community he can't recognize anymore. There's a general sentiment that what upset him the most were authority figures and corporations, specifically when Twitch and Capcom basically forced him to cancel his show, Capcom Pro Talk, even though the whole community loved it. Mike would affirm his love for competition when cited at EVO 2018, making it deep into the Guilty Gear competitive bracket. Months later on a podcast, he explained himself saying that his favorite thing about the FGC is that it allows him to mess people up in games. On that same podcast, he would summarize what dismayed him so greatly about selling himself in esports. He said,
"Essentially, that's kind of what esports is, isn't it? Is you put your personality out there and you're selling something at the end of the day."
It deeply bothered him that the part of the community he worked in was now more about selling stuff than it was about proving who's the best. On the opposite end of people like Mike, who felt defeated by the capitalistic homogenizing elements associated with esports, are people like Giuna and Majin Obama, who, while working in esports-style events that include the fighting game community, actively resist the homogenizing forces of esports. Giuna is constantly making ironic esports tweets on his Twitter, which call out everything from the esports pose to the style of dress or the prioritization of sponsorships.
Look at my hand. You can see the hand over here.
Oh, can you see it on the monitor?
FGC poverty over here.
Well, put your hot dog on the screen.
I could do that. We could bomb them.
Put the hot dog on the big screen. Move your head. They can't see.
I'm not dabbing. I'm actually just showing you the hot dog of the FGC.
There's a hot dog on the big screen.
Will he eat it?
Uh-oh, the cops are looking at us over there.
Okay.
They're like, get it off the screen. That's not an official hot dog sponsor.
That was not Eat Sports enough.
If that was Peking Duck, they would have been like, oh, there's our sponsor.
To the whiteness of esports. And it's only natural that Giuna is able to so easily recognize stuff that doesn't fit with the fighting game community spirit. As the lead organizer of Battle by the Gazebo, the outdoor tournament referenced earlier, he knows that the FGC is about people competing and having a good time, no matter the cost, or free of cost in the case of this tournament. In an esports world that demands a lot of control, structure, and hierarchy, Giuna brings a degree of chaos that the FGC appreciates. But his brand of chaos is the new rowdiness of the FGC, which is silly and fun compared to the old FGC's toxic machismo. Just for reference, compare these esports team entrances to these individual player entrances at fighting game tournaments. These people don't want to all walk the same, and they don't want to all stop walking and end up in the same posture and the same pose. They're just made to do that because esports demands a kind of specific militaristic homogeneity to show the unity and strength of its teams to the max, even though it's all an act. Meanwhile, in the FGC, at a tournament called CEO, which is themed around professional wrestling...
With the glasses? Oh, wow, wait, with the U...
Traveling back in time.
Wow, with the UYU boys, the Tekken champ John Ding, and UYU Drew?
Oh, my God.
Oh,
yes!
wow.
Yes.
Wow. I didn't see it come. I didn't think they were going to... Who knew? Yeah, I didn't know they were going to do the whole thing. Man, this thing is going too far.
His vision is vital, Say-Jan.
2020 vision.
Man, I don't know if he can actually chuck Timo as Chaozu, but
that would be so beast, actually. Chaozu's going in. Oh, he's going to hold the ropes for him. Look at him.
I don't know if Chaozu's that much of a homie. He would probably actually be floating right now. This is
throws up the rock. Let's go.
All right.
Man, Chaozu always on deck for the homie. Let's go, Timo.
Uh-oh. Wait a minute. What's going on here?
But what has a Chaozu? Oh, Chaozu, no! Chaozu, no!
Oh, man, I love it.
Oh, and he hits the deck. Oh, is that Yamcha? It's Yamcha, no! And what a perfect time to have an overview camera.
There are dozens of these entrances every year at CEO because CEO can afford to be different than other fighting game events because we have no governing body. Because people in the FGC compete as individuals and not as part of teams, there are no limiting factors of disability, gender, race, or any kind of presupposition of what a player should look like. There are legally blind players like Blind Warrior Sven or KH Rattlehead winning tournament matches.
Ooh, and he gets the XTP! Sven!
Go Sven!
Sven coming with his Ken, and
here from Spain?
there is no such thing as problems in life when you're actually able to beat someone without looking at the screen.
He's so happy, man.
Only with the sound. Shout outs to Sven. The crowd is giving him a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.
Brawly Legs has been a top player for years, playing the game only using his face. He's even beaten bullies who actually harass him for his disability. That bully was Low Tier God, who we'll talk about later. In regard to gender inclusion, there are many awesome initiatives for women in the FGC, like EXO Academy or Combo Queens, that are made up of women helping women in the FGC with the support of men.
Progress is being made. We are getting more women commentators. We are getting more women out there and feeling comfortable showing up to events thanks to stuff like Combo Queens and such. So we're not seeing diminishing returns on women in the FGC.
Combo Queens would actually host an EVO after party, which was one of the most populated and well-attended events at EVO in 2018. I was there. I have footage.
If you want to see more women in the FGC and you are a woman, you go. You know Scare. They know Scare. Go to the event. Play your heart out. Beat the boys. Show them you're gonna do it. You know? Oh no, the boys are scary. Fuck them. Scare them more. Just go. I feel very passionately about this, that it's not going to come from anybody else but you.
Meanwhile, in the world of women in esports, the $53 women's esports dress featuring a cleavage zipper made without consulting a single woman. It's time we do something for female gamers who receive so much backlash in the community. This dress does very little to repair the damage and injustice done every day to women trying to work or perform in esports. Fighting games have plenty of women top players like Maureen, Yohozi, Ricky Ortiz. Women working in conventional esports are given Susie Colbert-esque sideline jobs and are almost always removed from the technicality of the games. Because the FGC takes pride in its inclusivity and diversity, it hit hardest when E-League, an esports broadcasting organization, twice misrepresented the FGC's inclusivity. K-Brad and Wolfcrone had a massive rivalry going into E-League in 2017 in Street Fighter V. They had both beaten each other once, and each time popped off on one or the other in a very dramatic and physical way. K-Brad especially got very close to Wolfcrone's face, but Wolfcrone still claps for him and shakes his hand at the end of this massive pop-off. Knowing all this, E-League and Entertainment Business First cast them in the same group for pool play at E-League 2017. Nobody ever felt threatened in either of these pop-offs, but E-League, before their match at E-League, set a security guard on camera, took shots of him, and strategically placed him in the frame for when the match finished. It must be emphasized that a security guard is a police force, and these are two black men. The gesture reeks of racism, and I don't imagine that it would be done for two white rivals under any circumstances. Prominent member of the FGC, Alter David, provided some criticism on Twitter, and Richard Lewis, the host of E-League, responded extremely negatively to the feedback, implying that there was a real security concern between the two. Formerly in his career, Richard Lewis wrote for Breitbart. The second esports embarrassment in regards to portraying the FGC's inclusivity comes from the reality show The Challenger from E-League. The show cast Low Tier God, a prominent transphobic, homophobic, misogynist fighting game YouTuber who most of the community has cast out. But nonetheless, he is popular online. On the same reality TV program, Guilty was cast. Guilty is a trans woman who, before the show began, had already been harassed online by Low Tier God. E-League claims they did not know that Low Tier God was openly transphobic online, but I'm personally certain that some people watched this show just to see how this toxic drama might play out.
I had a lot of
friends actually that were on that show. JB, Jesse, and Rob.
I love Jesse. I talked to him today.
Yeah, but they had a mix of like actual like good like serious players, but then they threw in like, I don't know, more entertaining people, I suppose. I don't agree with Low Tier God being on the show. I don't think he should be a representation of what we're all about, and I think it was a really bad call on their part.
Yeah. It would have been so easy to find any.
There could be somebody, anybody like entertaining that's also decent at Street Fighter. There's so many like strong players that are also like really like cool people. But yeah, what they went for.
What hurt even harder than these misrepresentations from E-League is that some people involved with affairs in the West Coast FGC followed the misrepresentative model that E-League set. This is the story of body count fighting, and it's a story that's difficult to tell because it's almost impossible to find any of body count fighting's content. Only a few videos have survived body count fighting's demise. One of these videos is an official esports style video from the team Echo Fox, which has just under 300 views on YouTube total.
Hey, what's up guys? It's your girl Haley here at Machinima's Body Count Fighting 6 tournament to watch our very own Fighting Foxes kick some butt. Man, thanks for joining backstage here at Body Count Fighting 6. Tell me about the atmosphere on the other side of this wall right now.
Yeah, we're like in like a little like cave type of event, you know, like underground fight, you know what I mean?
Oh, it's like Fight Club.
Yeah, basically.
Is there like a ring girl and everything?
Yes.
Oh man, I can't wait to see this.
To kill stage! The title match, the Dragon Ball Fighters at BCF 6. Oh, it blocked it! Oh no! That drop was huge. The kill save is going to remain the Body Count Fighting Dragon Ball Fighters champion. And he's going home with $2,500.
He won?
This video bears all of the stylistic and aesthetic preferences of esports style video. The editing is jumpy and fast, and the dubstep bass blasts. One of the first things the video shows is a fat stack of cash. The editor makes sure that we can hear the commentator say that To Kill Sage won $2,500. The commentator states the amount of money with emphasis, regardless of what amount of money it is. At the same time, the underground fight night atmosphere may mesh better with fighting game community sensibilities. You can tell that this event is a collaboration between esports producers and some fighting game organizers. The very beginning of the video provided a nice hint as to why Body Count Fighting's content cannot be found. It was filmed at Machinima's studios and was owned by Machinima. Machinima is a video game content creation company that dates back to the ancient days of YouTube and video game content in general. In the later 2010s, the Machinima network grew too wide for its own good. Through 2016 to 2019, the rights to Machinima's content traded hands between many multi-billion-dollar TV and media companies. In 2019, Machinima was officially bought by Otter Media. The first thing Otter Media did with Machinima's content was delete or privatize every single video that Machinima had ever released. Body Count Fighting, a media enterprise made in collaboration between the West Coast fighting game community and Machinima, was part of Machinima. Because of this, all of Body Count Fighting's content is now gone. All that remains is a ghostly trail of content that you can find by Google searching Body Count Fighting and visiting its YouTube channel with 20,000 or so subscribers and no views and no profile picture and no videos. The disappearance of Body Count Fighting's content is an erasure and disappearance of the achievements of the commentators and players that participated in Body Count Fighting. Many of Body Count Fighting's organizational practices, like running open entry online events that could give anybody prize money, were actually commendable, and so the organizers' work and achievements are erased too. Body Count Fighting rests eternally in pieces. I can only hope that BCF rests as an omen for the FGC to remember the dangers of participating in an event that is owned by a corporation with corporate interests in mind. The short life and death of BCF reminds us why independent grassroots FGC events must be the priority for the community going into the future, and why governing bodies should be avoided at all costs. From the pieces of BCF that remain on the internet, and from some pieces of my memory, I'm still able to put together the story of when BCF failed the FGC at the representative level, which is why we originally brought up BCF in the first place. Following the trends set by E-League and the Challenger reality show, Body Count Fighting invited Low Tier God to compete on the show, twice. But that's only the beginning of the problem. In addition to inviting Low Tier God, and thusly inviting his entire harmful and hateful audience, Low Tier God was invited to compete against 2 women. The first was Killer Miller, a longtime fighting game community member who is famous for having simultaneously proposed at a fighting game tournament with her husband. The second was Guilty, who you're all familiar with from the reality TV show clips from earlier. You can see how this would be a problem.
And she's a beast. It's Miller time. Make some noise and welcome to the ring, Killer Miller!
Wow, that is strong. And she brought the sword with her.
What a weapon.
She has the sword.
If you're watching at home, get your girlfriends to watch this. This is a fight for all women's rights right here.
Ladies and gentlemen, the crowd loves Killer Miller.
Look at that sword right there.
Wait, hold on.
Yo, no freaking way. Oh!
Why'd you do that? I need him.
Wow. Wow, I feel different.
I feel clean?
Yeah, I feel like I got purged of all my sins and evil. Yeah, it's crazy. That's a good.
Sword of Equality has magical powers, folks.
Definitely. I feel like an equal, for sure. Yeah, if girls at home watching the stream, get your girlfriends. This is definitely something you want to see. It doesn't happen all the time.
Brace yourself for what Julio's about to say.
She's going to need all the support she can get, so get your girlfriends, tell them to tune in to BC Fighting and support Miller time, because she is truly, underestimated, and she's going to show the world what's up.
Julio said she's going to need all the support she can get. He seems to be hinting at the fact that inviting Low Tier God to potentially beat her in a bout that thematizes social justice invites all kinds of harassment from Low Tier God's fans and supporters. Sure enough, it happened. Low Tier God beat Killer Miller at this exhibition 4-0. LTG fans anonymously online would go on to mock the Sword of Justice even more ruthlessly than the commentators did in the intro. Killer Miller is a real competitor who didn't make any excuses, but this game that the exhibition was played in, Street Fighter V, was not her main competitive game of choice. It feels almost as if she was set up to fail for the enjoyment of bigots. Thankfully, the outcome was reversed in Guilty's match against Low Tier God. However, that doesn't make the prospect of this match's existence any less concerning. Not everybody would be able to brush off LTG's violent language like Guilty. And the fact that this happened even after the first match showed that BCF didn't really learn any lesson from the previous set with Killer Miller. One could make the argument that because every player involved in the exhibition is being paid, regardless of if they win or lose, that this is still advancement for women in the FGC, just to have any screen time at all. But the social impact of these shows is more tangibly impactful than the money that either player makes.
I love BCF, but I feel like I compare that match to a joke match in like a WWE. Is something to warm up the crowd. It's not too serious. Guilty is a more serious player, but she also plays to I don't know, the entertainment side of this. So
everybody waiting.
I don't really agree with it, but it happens, so.
If anything like BCF ever happens again, I would hope that it's not owned by a big corporation, and I especially hope that they don't make their bout matches embody real social issues. One last thing. Shady esports companies love cryptocurrencies and not paying certain employees for their work. As a newer industry, esports needs to tackle the problems that all new industries do, and hopefully develop unions in the future. Okay, that's the end of all the context. We can now enter some stories that really demonstrate the clash of FGC and esports. These are personal stories of mine from last summer and last fall. This first one sets the stage for conflict, literally. At this tournament in Ohio called Ground Zero Second Impact, Red Bull sponsors were present and handed out Red Bull cans for free through these Red Bull girls pictured here. At the same tournament, a fight between a drunken tournament organizer from Ohio and the Detroit FGC broke out. Paulushina, an apologetic member of the Ohio FGC, came to explain to us what happened.
Detroit just left.
Hi, Buffalo! You remember our friend? He ruined everything again. Our friend?
Huh?
Whose friend? What?
You remember the guy we brought to
Magic.
when we
Oh,
first,
Magic, yeah.
when we first came and he got drunk?
Yeah, broke the
well,
toilet.
apparently he's drunk here. And
I heard that.
He had you guys just saw a grown man cry in front of everybody.
Yeah.
Because he wants to fight him so bad. And now he has to leave because if he sees him again, they're going to fight. Like, I mean, I don't blame him because...
Do you know where Magic went? Because I know he walked out.
I had to kick him out because he pushed our main TO.
Yeah.
Yeah, he pushed Kevin.
Wait.
I was like, no, you got to go.
You're saying Magic pushed Kevin? I was looking over at that, but wow.
I'm like, damn. I'm explaining it. I'm like, bro, you see the Buffalo people back there chilling.
Yeah, we have these theater seats. Like, what the fuck?
Like, they know how this is. And they're like, the whole time we were visiting y'all, like, I'm just like, oh, God, please don't think we just like this. I swear. We'll kick him out after this. Please. I thought he quit the FGC because he does make statuses about not being here, like, you know, fuck us and all that. So seeing him here, I was like...
How, if he has all that negative energy...
That's what I'm saying.
Right. How is he TOing?
Apparently, like, he sent a message to Brian and the person who owned the store that he broke the toilet of, right? That he was, like, done drinking. So this is a surprise to me. I don't know.
Y'all went out with right there. But no, he's I throw up every time I see that.
Yeah.
Don't talk to me, bro. Especially when he gets to drinking, ain't nothing nice coming out that mouth. Nothing. He should know everybody.
And that's why I don't drink.
Yeah.
I'm the same fucking thing.
Poor Kevin, man. He's good. Yeah, seriously, poor guy.
Owner's like, yep, no, you're not coming back.
I don't know how Magic made it on staff. Like, was it like a second chance or some shit?
So it's like, pausing brackets real quick while I figure this shit out.
Yeah. No match is running.
This has to be the wildest thing I think I've been a part of in FGC.
Best tournament ever!
Yes! This is unlike, like in the era of esports and FGC colliding, this is the most interesting thing that could ever happen.
There is no group more frequently involved in these clashes of cultures between old FGC and new than Korn. Korn is that group from Detroit featured in my video. They are just as famous for their crowd hype and excitement as they are infamous for the violence of their language and online discourse. One event, Michigan Masters, actually banned the group. Michigan Masters was praised by its attendees for cultivating the most safe and welcoming atmosphere possible. Nonetheless, there is a pervasive sentiment in the FGC that Korn represents the rawest and realest FGC that there can be. Korn's classic chant, Monday Bitten Masher, has a resilient popularity through the years since it's been uploaded.
Somebody's getting fucked! Get fucked! Somebody's getting fucked! Get fucked! Get fucked!
Me and my scene even participated in the chant's enduring popularity.
Somebody's getting fucked! Get fucked! Somebody's getting fucked! Get fucked!
Shortly before one of the biggest fighting game tournaments, Combo Breaker, a top Mortal Kombat player was surrounded and harassed by Korn at Naptown Clutch. That player was Tweety, who reported that he was suddenly surrounded while playing casual matches before Top 8 and forced to apologize on Twitter about a tweet he made in which he implied something negative about a player from Detroit. During the incident, one of the Korn players reportedly spit on him. There was a conversation in the community about banning Korn from Combo Breaker as well, essentially barring them from the biggest tournament in their home region. The group was not banned, and instead when some members of Korn performed Monday Bitten Masher for a Tekken match, it seemed that the entire FGC rejoiced watching it on Twitter.
Somebody's getting fucked! Somebody's getting fucked!
The COR in Korn stands for Coalition of Real. In this moment in the community, that R for real is reinscribed to mean that they won't change their ways as time changes. People view Korn as the enduring symbol of the era of realness, but there are many people for whom that era was never real. While the FGC obviously has a history of loud, machismo men gathering in groups to yell and play games, to compete in game and to compete even for a moment to speak, it's unrealistic now for everyone to believe that groups like Korn are the real FGC heritage, even though many groups like them still exist. One event Korn is particularly infamous for is the videotaping and debatable bullying and harassment of Crying Brian, who members of Korn behind the camera emasculated for crying after losing a money match to Noel Brown in Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Several years later, at Combo Breaker 2018, this event would be referenced by Majin Obama, who needed to talk about it after Crying Brian won Sarvets All-Stars at CB 2018. Get ready, because this last clip combines it all. All of the conflicts and energies you now understand from all the previous examples and that Ohio fight story. Here is Majin Obama delivering the greatest articulation of FGC values versus esports of all time at Combo Breaker 2018 with Sarvets.
This is Combo Breaker
Sarvets,
2018.
the man, get in here.
Sarv, talk to the people. Talk to them.
What's happening, you guys?
All right, so yeah, take a seat, Sarv. Take a seat.
I'm here with the
Hold
one
on,
and
Sarv,
only.
Sarv. This is you got to remember, this is 2018. We esports with it, man. Now, baby, hold on 1 second. So I'm here, guys, once again with Mr. Sarvets, director and producer of, again, Sarvets All-Stars. You just watched this intense exhibition, over $1,600 raised for this exhibition tournament here at Combo Breaker 2018 Day 1. Mr. Sarvets, so look, talk to me a little bit about what were your inspirations with designing this super intense, super inspirational game?
I put my pants on one leg at a time like everybody else. I woke up one morning, I looked out the window and I said, hey, the people need a great video game so they can have that enjoyment at home.
Absolutely.
And I thought to myself, hey, no one else is doing it. Why don't I do it?
Inspirational.
Yeah.
And once again, Sarv, you're real humble with it, man. He said he's got 2 legs. He puts his pants on 1 leg at a time.
Yeah.
Man's a tripod. Don't sell him short. Man's a tripod. And of course, you gotta come with the inspiration. You gotta have that swagger to be able to construct the game as complex and intricate as Sarvets All-Stars. And you saw it here tonight. Crying Brian, redemption.
Yeah.
Redemption. 6 years ago, that man was shedding tears. The coalition had him in the corner, shedding tears. But tonight, Sarvets All-Stars for $1,600. You think that brother ain't walking home? Bruh, he's got every cosplayer in the building on his arm right now.
I'm gonna tell you
He's got
right now.
9 Y chromosomes. The brother's a fucking man. But look, guys, thanks to each and every one of you from around the world tuning in to Combo Breaker 2018 Day 1. I can't see out my right eye. I got glaucoma. This shit's hereditary. I can't control it. But look, I need you guys to come back at 10 a.m. Central tomorrow morning, because we got Guilty Gear. We got some Dragon Ball. We got Street Fighter 5. And baby, you better believe we got Tekken, Under 9 Invert, Blaze Blue, everything under the stars, baby.
Day 1. Combo Breaker Day 1.
Hey, you think this is esports? You think esports? This is FGC.
I know it's not the right time tonight, but I won't move until it stops. Go back to the top. Back to the top. You never belonged to me. Now I can see the light.
Combo Breaker 2019's trailer would use this speech from Majin Obama from 2018 as well.
You think esports? This is FGC.
This trailer and Combo Breaker's wild success shortly after is an indication that certain tournament organizers are listening to the concerns of the fighting game community. Majin Obama's reaffirmation that this is FGC and not esports, and the song choice of Break Free, makes it pretty clear that Combo Breaker is distinguishing itself from esports-style events. Combine Combo Breaker's understanding of the community with the fact that its venue is open for 24 hours and players can play all day and night, and it becomes very clear why Combo Breaker seems to be most players' favorite event. While Combo Breaker has gained favor and distinguished itself from esports, Other prestigious FGC events have lost favor and made themselves more esports. One important event that has lost a lot of favor is EVO. EVO is the largest and most prestigious fighting game tournament in the world. For casual players, it is no doubt still the biggest and best thing to go to. It's the closest thing to a fighting game convention over 3 days that anyone can go to. It fills Mandalay Bay Stadium every summer. But for players and members of the core fighting game community, EVO has been falling out of favor. At EVO 2018, throughout the whole convention center floor, there was not a single running water fountain. EVO's Mandalay Bay security would not allow for water to be brought onto the show floor, and so many people just had to buy $7 bottles of water. This was an outrage experienced by thousands of people at the same time. For many in the community, it was an indication that EVO was going more esports by turning the acquisition of water into a corporate enterprise. Also at EVO 2018, EVO's stage security was so aggressive and angry with all of the friends of players that wanted to storm a stage that people were forcibly removed. One of my interview subjects, Mira, was among those storming the stage and then forced off. You can see on the left she was fairly violently yanked away. Security measures like this were a bit unexpected of EVO, which is a grassroots FGC event built up over decades. Much crazier has happened at EVO in the past. You've seen it in this movie already.
Like I remember when I saw that too, I'm like, wow, I get that it's a big tournament and it's fancy and it was CBT and they got stuff up there. I can understand being like, hey, you can't rush the stage, but don't yank them off.
It only got worse for EVO from there. EVO would choose to use the footage of the Midwest scene popping off for Cool Kid in the trailer for EVO 2019. They cut out the part where EVO security yanked them off. For the players, it's become increasingly clear that EVO is prioritizing the spectacle and scale of its finals day and the quality of that broadcast over the player experience. EVO incentivizes all of its attendees to buy a ticket for the Sunday finals by not having any places to play available on Sunday and making Sunday finals day the only thing to do. Because EVO provides very few places to play, once you're eliminated, you gotta go buy merch and check out artist alleys and hopefully get your expensive finals ticket. If not any of that, I suppose you go and gamble in Vegas for an early flight ticket home.
You have other super majors, other incredibly big tournaments that are more focused on the player experience that, in comparison, I don't think EVO offers anything that those tournaments don't already. So CEO and Combo Breaker come to my mind, where, there's 24-hour venue, so people can play all the time that they want, huge, spacious. They're in cities and areas that are not as expensive as Vegas. They have setups on Sundays. It's really geared towards the celebration of fighting games. Is sometimes I think now EVO is more of a manipulation of the success of fighting games.
At the same time that some events which originated from the fighting game community are becoming more esports to reach different audiences, some events that originate out of esports companies are becoming more FGC to reach the core FGC audience. Red Bull Conquest was Red Bull Esports' attempt to create a tournament series that fit with the offline, city-focused nature of the fighting game community. It's the closest any esports organization has come to making a successful event like this. The following video is the trailer Red Bull put out to announce the Conquest series.
You thought the fight was over. You have proven yourselves worthy. Rise up and prepare for battle. Rally together and prove your worth. Show that you can conquer this country. Earn your place. Rise. Rally. Conquer. May the strongest survive.
Red Bull sent media teams to all 15 major cities that were included in the Conquest circuit. The following video is what was produced at Red Bull Conquest Boston. This is the event that almost the entire Buffalo fighting game community was able to attend due to a smaller qualifier event held in Buffalo a month before.
I used to be super shy.
kept myself to myself. Then I got involved in fighting games. I have experienced things and have gone to cities that I would have never gone to my entire life had I not been a part of the FGC. It sounds kind of silly at first, but then you see what we've created here.
This is the qualifier to get to the championships that will be Washington, D.C.
Bringing in some of the best from Boston, New England, people from Buffalo.
There was a busload of people from Buffalo coming in, and honestly, I don't think any of them stand a chance.
There are 24 Buffalonian players here. We rolled in full force.
I just won this tournament. I am representing the Buffalo region, my home region. But I suppose I am representing the Boston area.
Determined to win this, so to come out with the first place feels like a fulfilled goal. We've already got 2 Buffalonians on Team New England. Better get ready.
Last year I had a really bad time dealing with the stage fright, and I realized that as long as I have my friends behind me, it makes it a lot easier. I just wanted to play as well as I can, and winning is a plus. Buffalo, are you surprised? We're really good.
You guys came and you guys punched us in the mouth. It was the wake up. I mean, it was great. Like, it sucked, but that's part of it. You know, I gotta hold that L.
And so that's kind of what I wanted to get to. You said like you have to hold the L. You feel the L as a scene, as a city, and even like as an organizer, I think you can be competing with other lead organizers of other cities, and that's something that Red Bull Conquest Boston kind of made pretty glaringly obvious.
Yep.
And I'm really thankful for that like attempt at that kind of series of an event.
Yeah.
Because it's open too. Like it's an open bracket that progresses towards this like more esports style.
Red Bull did a great job.
Yeah.
For a corporate entity to try to do it the right way, they did a great job.
Yeah.
Because there's a ton of you, right?
Yeah.
I would love if we could coordinate it, a picture of both scenes.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, doing a cheesy face-off or something.
Yeah,
I think that'd be godlike.
Yeah.
Because it's like it's such a rare opportunity for both teams.
And like this is such a great opportunity for rivalry at like its highest form.
Yeah.
So
Oh, Boston. When we went to Red Bull Boston, that was so sick. That's the biggest example I can think of easy.
Yeah.
So, you know, we went, Red Bull had this tournament series across the country for big cities. One was in Boston. We had a little pre-qualifier here or whatever, so we decided we had 24 people in our community go to Boston for this Red Bull tournament, and the Boston qualifier was for this larger national Red Bull tournament. So Red Bull's a big company, you got a lot of money. So obviously it was like esports and the way it was set up, the production, the venue was nice. They had cameras, they hired people for commentary, you know, they worked the house mic, you know, had a legitimate stream setup, you know, and then we come in, you know, and this is the best part. We come in from Buffalo, 2 vans just packed with dudes.
And Helen.
And Helen, shout out to Helen. We come in, 2 vans, we almost don't get there. We play at a McDonald's while we think we're not gonna make it because they didn't book a hotel room. Super FGC, we play outside, and anyways, we get there, and like, you know, we're just like, we're like Buffalonians at a Bills game. We're just like losing it. We're yelling, we're screaming. Anytime someone from Buffalo was up on stage on the big fancy stream, it was like at least like 5 of us down below the stage, just like screaming our heads off. And then it got to the end of the tournament where all our Buffalo players were in the finals, and it was just like, it went up. You know, it kept going up, it kept going up.
He wants to go home! Let's go! He's over! Go home! He's too short!
it's like I never felt more alive and connected to the community in my life. I feel like no one else did either.
Play it! You can't play it! Go! Play the light! You're going to get it! You're fucking going! Let's go! Come on, I gotta give him his prize.
I have to interview.
Okay, you got it.
Zombie won. Congratulations, man.
So like you have this passionate group of people, right? In the midst of this like esports event, you know. And I think that was beautiful because you saw what the FGC is about. There's just people supporting each other that wanted them to do out the games that they love.
Grand final! A while! Yes. A while! Holy shit!
And it was absolutely beautiful and fittingly Red Bull's response to that passion, that screaming, Station and Fred in Bunch's face, you know, yelling.
Oh my god, that was...
Yeah. Their response was to take the security guard and bring him down to the stage floor and stand right behind.
Yeah, that was. Yeah, no, I remember that. Yeah, I remember a security guard talked to me too. He told me to calm down. But you know what? It was just great because, you know, if you talk to anybody like pre-2009. You know, you gave them that story or gave them video, they'd be, oh yeah, this is what the community's about. You know what I mean?
Still alive.
Right, exactly. So there's a lot of old heads who like really like hold on to that kind of thing.
He's gonna everybody's gonna butt this nigga. Keep your mouth fucking shut. You say you gonna fight on me? What happened? Because you talk. Nigga, I don't know you like that. Why you always talking? I don't know you like that. Either shut the fuck up or put your money up. Case in point.
And the fact that we do it for our community, I think, is a real intermingling of you know, the modern state of the FGC and what has defined it canonically to be really exciting and hype. You know, so you know, and you see the people that you know, you show up with every week, and you travel to tournaments, you take all these plane rides and these car rides, you sink all these hours in this niche hobby that no one else understands but you guys, and then you go to this other city and like you see them do well and you win for the first time, and it's like, oh my god, this is like it. This is like what life's about, you know what I mean?
Like I was at Game On. I had missed some of the because I had to work that day, but I walked in Game On. I'm like, hey, what's going on? How the guys doing at Red Bull? And I walked in, and I think Guilty Gear was on and Fred was playing. Yeah. And it was like
he was against Sway.
Yeah, and somebody showed me the brackets, and I'm like,
oh shit, this
all
is
these
third.
All these guys are like Street Fighter, Tekken. Like, wait, all these guys from all these Buffalo guys are first of all this deep in the brackets, and I'm looking, I'm like. In my head, I'm like, there's no way we're gonna have an all Buffalo Grand Finals for Street Fighter. That happened. Yeah. There's no way we're gonna have an all Buffalo Finals for Tekken. Well, that happened. Yeah. And then we're like, okay, well, maybe I'm not deep into Guilty Gear, but I'm like, I hear Zombie's pretty good, so I don't know how this is gonna go. And I'm just watching, I'm just like,
I just won this tournament.
And Zombie won too, so you guys took over Boston. That's amazing.
This reminds me of Red Bull Rise 3 weeks ago.
Shit. What happened to Boston? Oh my god. Where's Boston? Where's Boston? What the fuck happened to Boston?
He's so
Baby.
drunk.
Don't suck. We like you guys. Yes, they fucking do. But also you guys do.
We're sorry.
Very sorry. No, I'm not.
You have to hold that.
I ain't
He's
fucking
not.
sorry.
The Red Bull Conquest events hit a lot of really great notes on what makes FGC events great. And one of them of you guys coming and creating hype, and that was part of why that event was great, why that event was awesome.
Yeah.
Ultimately, us losing was a great wake-up call. It's just part of it. Part of it is understanding that, no matter how good you think you are, there is someone better out there. Doesn't matter if you win your local, win your first tournament match, or win Evo.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Let's go! Shut the fuck up!
Damn! Oh! How does he do that? How does he do that? How did he do that? How did he do that? Where'd that come from? Damn. Damn.
Red Bull Conquest Boston was the climax of the Warpath era of the Buffalo fighting game community. Since moving to Game On in spring of 2015, the venue naturally brought players to us. Combine the natural flow of new talent with the fact that our venue allowed us to play for free 2 days a week, and it becomes easy to see how we gained so much strength in 4 years. Comparing this clip in Rochester from 2016 with what we have now at 2018's Red Bull Conquest, there is a giant evolution in the scale of our conquering. All of Western New York is Buffalo, and that's fine. We love Rochester. They traveled with us to the event. This is footage of Fred, No One Man Cells, popping off after watching Buffalo win the Street Fighter V 5v5 versus Rochester 5-0.
Andy, what do you have to say for yourself? Turn the camera on yourself.
He says,
what do you have to say?
30 Facebook likes.
I can't say shit.
What does it feel like? I don't know if you guys all travel together, but we are. This is the Boston qualifier, but it's been
the whole time, like, is he gonna keep saying this shit?
How do you feel? Buffalo, baby!
You know we're gonna travel together and all have a good time, so it's gonna be lit.
Well, that's definitely a nice thing there. Shut up over there off the bed. You need to calm down. You had your chance.
I'm so surprised I did not get more notoriety.
Demarius is right. It is remarkably surprising that this event did not get more notoriety, considering this crowd here has only Buffalo people left in it. None of the other cities or regions had any place there. We dominated in and out of the game, which was really nice.
Really nice, and I feel like that's a step for us. Like,
I just want to make sure you know also that we did never see a Red Bull person in the venue. Their bus they planned for us had to be replaced by vans because of slow communication, and Red Bull booked the hotel for us on the wrong day. So we had to change hotels, and Brian had to change everything in a panic, and that's what the McDonald's stop was for.
Oh.
We didn't know if we had to come back or not, which was nuts, but kind of indicative of the ignorance of corporate level esports compared to
that there was so little care.
Yeah.
And then the fact that through all this, once again, you guys still went in there and took over.
Right, and you're a part of that. Enter the Highway McDonald's, somewhere in East New York State, around 11 p.m.
So the whole thing that happened with McDonald's, right, we would go to Boston, we're 2.5 hours in with 2 vans with 13 people in each van, and we pull over to this gas station, and Brian, who's heading this trip, was like, well, Red Bull was supposed to book us hotel rooms, but they booked it for the wrong day. So now we don't have hotel rooms. And he's like, well, we're not going any further because we're not driving to Boston and then having no hotel rooms, and then we're, up a creek.
We out here on the highway. Rest stop. Brief McDonald's stop followed by some organizational troubles from Red Bull. So we've decided for the best course of action, if we can't make it to our venue, is to make the world our venue. Bring Conquest right here in the parking lot. All the best players are waiting. The winners are waiting. What are we playing, K-Money? Street Fighter? Street Fighter?
We're playing Street Fighter.
Yeah, great. Functional outlet right here on the wall. I'm so hyped.
We need some.
This is the best idea. Hey, look.
There's an outlet, and I can plug my phone back in.
Now we just need 10 people betting on it, and then we're good to go. Oh, this is a beautiful little mall. We make the most of what we have. How long have you been waiting for a scene like this, John?
What do you mean a scene like this?
A scene like this.
This is pretty amazing already.
Yeah.
Ready?
We'll
This
make
is
the most.
America.
It was pretty cool. I mean, it's one of those things that you just don't expect. That's like a spontaneous FGC moment that you don't think that you'll ever live in. Something that should blow up on Twitter, like people playing Melty in a bathroom, or
yeah, right.
you know.
The rest of us are gonna get no seat.
What do you mean the rest of us?
Like when we get there, it's gonna be like 4 a.m.
Yeah, it's gonna be fucked. Well, the pools don't start till 12, so it's fine. What a fascinating moment. Parking lot melty? Fuck that. Parking lot street fighter. We're not esports anymore. We lost. We lost our chance.
No, especially thinking like, you know, it's like this is the
Fred, tell me about the setup. Sorry, one second. Tell me about the setup. Tell me about the scene. Tell me about Blanca.
Yo, we had McDonald's.
We have McDonald's?
That's it. That's it.
We play Melty Blood over here?
This isn't Melty Blood, but it's close.
You got Eldum?
Close.
K-Money, what are we doing?
Yo, who got next?
We're being as FGC as we can.
FGC.
This is the most FGC thing ever.
We got to get it out of our system before the esports event, right? Before Red Bull. Before Red Bull takes it away.
Grassroots forever. Red Bull.
Plus Red Bull.
Grassroots forever.
Yeah. No, fuck grassroots. Cement roots.
Crazy.
We on the parking lot.
Play guilty here. Play guilty here.
Yeah. Play guilty here. Next. Shout out to Yimi. Shout out to Uni.
You should get the fan out shot. Show where exactly.
Is this real? How is this real? What is going on? In public, plugging into an outlet, playing Street Fighter at McDonald's.
That's part of the FGC, man. That's part of like the awesomeness of it. It's so you do things that if you play fighting games competitively and you travel for it, you find yourself in the most crazy situations and surrounded by people who are just as crazy as you are for competitive stuff.
Can you broadcast on Twitch?
You want me to broadcast on Twitch?
I'm not kidding, yeah.
I technically can.
Yeah,
From my
get the
phone.
stream running.
I don't know if I have service here, but if I can get service here.
We gotta get that McDonald's Wi-Fi. Make the meme real, you know?
Oh yeah.
McDonald's has Wi-Fi. You can definitely use it from here. I play on McDonald's Wi-Fi at home, so.
Okay.
And we're like, man, what do we do? What do we do to make a better situation? Because I think a lot of people thought we weren't going to go because, like, what are they going to do? You know, like, get us hotel rooms? Like, they're going to make us go back. And we're just at a truck stop McDonald's, almost like close to midnight, outside, huddled by the outlet.
It's a picnic table.
Picnic table playing for like an hour. We played for like an hour or like 45 minutes.
We grinding outside of McDonald's, baby.
I got Don Q on deck.
Actually, Talk, I'm not gonna lie, it was Obama being president that made me actively be less racist.
Is this Get Out?
That is not
That was
something
the
that
sentence
of the year.
If Obama were president, you would be in the line ahead of me, don't even have to ask.
Damn right.
Obama just had that charisma.
Is so fucking funny.
Yeah.
That's on camera now.
Yo, Obama had next in America.
Chris, you'd be last too, but you already are in the line.
Yo, this is so funny. Obama was on the station and then he got fucking Jim.
Yeah, he got hit with the Jim.
Damn.
That hits deep.
That's fucking topical.
That's topical.
Go try again.
Jose, you player one. Yo, Jose, you gotta resign it.
Spread the love, man.
The FGC, we out here. Hotel or no tell? This is the no tell. This is the no tell.
No tell. No tell.
We got the no tell set up right here.
I'm comfy right here. Our hoodies are pillows.
Right here.
Yeah.
This is a tournament now.
Yeah.
Disconnect devices.
Damn. Yo,
Official.
disconnect those controllers.
It's about pride.
Oh my God. Jose getting up. Stand up, Jose. It's over.
Damn. Who's up next? JJ?
JJ.
A Wild's got next now.
Let's see those DPs. I want to know at McDonald's.
A Wild's got next.
And it's awesome. Like you can't make that story up. You can't replicate it. There's no way to do it again. Like, it's so hard to find reasons to do that again anywhere else. Like, really, and I can't stress enough, like, treasure that.
Yeah.
Treasure that and understand how awesome it is, because, you know, who knows how long this will last, who knows how long you'll want to do it, who knows, but it's stories like that McDonald's thing that really is just, it's the shit right now.
So we find an outlet outside this truck stop McDonald's. I brought my power strip, we put the power strip in, found a chair, or we found a table, 2 chairs, set up my monitor, and we played. You know, and it was just emblematic of being a community. We just made the best out of a crappy situation.
Yeah.
Really.
We make the most of what we have.
And I think it was more like an hour and a half of people playing.
Right.
And at the same time, there's people walking into the McDonald's pretending not to see us.
Right.
Some pretending, or some people actively looking at us the whole way. One old man who walks up and says, "Hey, can I take a photo with you guys for my grandson? He loves video games."
No, it's just, yeah, I mean, it was just something completely unique, because at the core, like, that's what the FGC, like, always was just like, you know what, we might not have a lot of money, but hey, man, we just got a group of people who want to play and have fun, and that's what that was. So it was cool, and it was just a really unique situation, and seeing everybody walk by was just really funny.
It's good bonding, and that shows just how hungry people are to say, all right, well, we're lost, but we figured this out, set up outside this McDonald's, we're gonna chill, we're gonna run stats, we're gonna get ready for where we're going.
Yeah.
As you can already sense, there is an awareness among the participants in this moment that what we were doing was something special. While I was standing and recording video, Brian Stone, the lead organizer for the Red Bull Conquest trip, and the busiest person in this moment, said something to me.
Oh, yeah, make sure you take pictures.
Oh, this guy's coming out.
We did.
Yeah.
Chronicle.
Yeah.
He's saying are you just saying one video? You got like.
Oh, wait,
I took pictures too.
I want to get that Evo shot.
Yeah. Yeah, esports. I have been.
Oh, he's ready. He coming in. Oh, shit. Oh, perfect.
All right, just so everyone's on the same page, we're playing off of a computer and we're not using their power.
This Capcom Cup.
This is a laptop, right, guys? Laptop? This is not a laptop.
This is higher stakes.
I charged the battery myself.
Yo, Luke has to go to the band though. Oh, one and done.
In a span of seconds, both Brian and Taka asked me to start taking photos and videos. It was a sixth sense. As of this moment, I knew that they knew that what we had going needed to be captured and saved forever, and I knew this documentary could exist.
That's why you guys ran over everybody at Boston. That's exactly, you guys ran over, that's why you guys ran over everybody at Boston, because you guys wanted it more.
Boston was fast food, just like McDonald's.
That's exactly what it was. To go into their hometown and their players aren't even in grand finals.
It was a moment of ecstasy and a moment of irony. And the level of irony in a group of people headed to a high-budget, corporate organized esports event going to play in a McDonald's parking lot is what made the euphoria of this scene happen. A moment where we could have had all the concern in the world about the prospect of having to turn our vans around and go back home, instead turned into a galvanizing moment of joy. The Buffalo fighting game community came together and made something happen for each other against the worst of odds. I've always had a fascination with recording what people choose to record themselves. In these images, I capture the owner of Game On and the driver of one of the vans, Ripple, pulling out his phone and recording what was happening. You could tell Ripple, recording here, is proud but not surprised. As he takes pictures and video, I had no idea what dark undercurrent there may have been motivating this decision. But Ripple knew that this would be one of the last remaining opportunities he would have to record the Buffalo fighting game community conquering space.
Coming out has been an honor having
serve most of the community and let you guys all get to know each other and be friends. And you know, we're gonna miss y'all. So it's not much else than that. You know, most of you guys know our feelings and how we feel about it. We're just as disappointed as you guys to see y'all go. So
we love you.
Thanks, guys.
Too much. Every miracle eventually ends.
Yeah. So now we're here at Buffalo Game Space, right, in the lawn hallways of the Tri-Main building, industrial, hidden, locked out of our own venue half the time, and
having the Ags taken, someone come let me in. It was like when I heard they were closing down.
It was so sudden.
It was like I said, it went from, I found out, like I said, that it was that Sunday, and they were like, hey, Wednesday we're closing. And it was like, what, which Wednesday? And they're like, this Wednesday. And I was like, what, dude? And it was like, that was it. It was just like, so it was like, thankfully, like I said, Brian had posted, like almost like they had coordinated with Brian, where Brian was like, hey guys, don't worry. I got something for us, because of course we were all gonna flood his inbox like, hey, what's gonna happen to us? Yeah. That was home. Yep. So it was like, luckily this place came as a backup. But there's still a lot of, like I said, that move it's still reverberating, and it was in November. Like I said, our numbers still they're not as strong, sadly, because like I said, it was, a lot of people don't know where this place is.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So,
do you have any sentiments, feelings, or anxieties in this period of transition for the VFGC?
I did. Like I said, Game On was my home. Like, it wasn't just where I would go to, you know, play fighting games. Like, I was there almost every Wednesday and Saturday, but then it would be like the occasional Friday or Tuesday I'll pop in just to hang out with the guys or something like that. But like anxious, absolutely, because it was like, what do you do now? I mean, like, grateful for Game Space for giving us the opportunity, but it's a smaller venue. Like, what do we?
No fancy lights, no built-in stream setup.
This isn't like, you can already tell this isn't gonna be home. So now I'm just wondering, like, almost where's that next miracle gonna come from?
So I think, like there's a big change in, I don't know, like the spirit of it. Not that it's decreased, but I think Game On, like you said, that 4.5 or 5 year period, it was really like an era. You know what I mean? You look back now that it's over, and you really understand, like, wow, we really had, that was like an era. That was like a period of history almost within our community, right? That right now, this is like a transitionary phase, you know, being a Game Space right now. So I would say we're just holding on. That's the biggest difference, you know. I mean, we had a really established like relationship with those guys at Game On, and people that came from out of town really liked the venue, and they started to associate our scene with Game On as well.
And I was all about like, all right, there has to be somebody in Buffalo who plays fighting games. There just must be. I found this place, Game On, and they were like, oh, it's a LAN center for games. Maybe somebody plays fighting games there.
No soliciting.
So it was like a 55-minute drive from where I live, so it was like kind of a trip. So it was like, I'm not gonna make many trips out here. And if it's kind of a bus, it's a bus. But lo and behold, we would go on the Ranbat night, just a random Wednesday.
You just showed up to Game On a Wednesday?
On a Wednesday night.
Are you serious?
Yes.
That's crazy.
Me and Mark
you had a 5 in 7 chance of being wrong.
Yeah.
And never coming back.
And never coming back.
That is wild.
And so we showed up on a Wednesday. I remember seeing Ripple. It was the first point of contact we had in there. And we're like, so what is this place? And it's like, oh, it's a LAN center. And he gives you the whole spiel. And I'm like, well, before we paid any money or anything, we need to look around the place. And he's like, oh, go ahead, look around. And then we look around, we go into the back, and we just see everybody's playing fighting. Everybody's playing Street Fighter 5. And we're like, oh my God, everybody's sticking the car. So I just like run out to the car and go grab it. Like, I go to Ripple, like, what do I pay? He's like, oh, you're FGC. Well, they get it for free, just gotta pay the $5 fee. We're like, oh my God, is it really? So that's how I got involved with the Buffalo fighting game community.
Wednesday. Who's even free Wednesday? Until they know about BFGC.
Yes, we literally roll the dice. We're bored, let's check this place out. It's kind of a drive. Yep. And we just happened to just run in and see everybody just playing. Like, everybody was playing Street Fighter 5 because it was new at the time, so
yep.
It was like, wow.
And so it was 2016 you showed up?
Yeah.
And this place, like, if you don't have the social confidence or connections to like send the right person a messenger message, you won't get into the building past 8 p.m.
Yeah.
You're locked out. What, you excited for the new venue? It's your first time at Saturday Casuals at the Tri-Main Center, right?
Oh, I've been here before. There's John.
Was it 4 years ago?
Welcome back. If you use that.
To Tri-Main Street.
Hey. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And so we're kind of isolated in a way that we weren't before at Game On.
Right.
Do you think having Game On as the venue also eased all social integration for everybody, including yourself? Because that was your home venue for Buffalo.
Yeah. As far as, I mean, I'm sure it didn't hurt by any stretch, but how much it helped is, I mean, I guess you could say it helped in the way that I found Game On before I found the Buffalo fighting game
that was
community.
actually it.
So,
and it was only after that you were on Facebook in the fighting game group for Buffalo.
Yeah, only after that, because I didn't never find a fighting anything on Facebook about it. I couldn't find a closed group or.
That's why we got to raise our social media profile.
Yeah, I think that'll help. Because anybody, like, you have to make it show up on a Google search, which if you type in Buffalo Fighting Game, at the time, I think now there's a page that if you type in Buffalo Fighting Game Community.
Yeah, we have a website now.
You get the website first, but at the time, when I typed in Buffalo Fighting Game Community, nothing. It was just like, there was a page I'm sure I would find that had post in like years.
It was probably about the 2009 Rumble in the Tundra. Because I think I've been on that same post.
Yeah. So, like, I wanted to see a dead thread. And that's, like, that was disheartening. But, like, yeah, that's how I found it. So, for me, if it wasn't for Game On, I probably wouldn't have found the Buffalo Fighting Game community. Yeah. So, that was lucky.
Yeah, there have been people who have become aware of a Buffalo Fighting Game community by finding a BFGC tag player on, like, a tournament stream. Like, oh, Buffalo is a scene? Crap.
Can't burst. And he gets him.
Good job,
Buffalo explodes.
That was an exciting
as Sway gets knocked into losers.
All right, looks like next up we got Savior versus Monkey Business.
All right, once again, Monkey Business coming again from Buffalo. We're wearing a Buffalo jersey, I believe, too, as well, fully repping his scene.
That's the way to do it.
That is the way to do it.
If we had balance match jerseys, I'd be wearing one right now.
Yeah.
I better Google that.
Yeah.
It's really
Which I
funny.
think is really cool, actually.
I mean, even John was like found at a convention, like UBCon. He went to the fighting game and he was like, "Oh, fighting game players in Buffalo with a scene, cool."
Yeah. So I mean, the outreach for these like conventions, and I think like the jerseys and everything helps, and using the BFGC tag really helps as well. But I mean, I'm really happy that I went to the game on that day. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
As far as finding the scene, and ever then I just try to be here as much as possible. So
yeah. But we don't have to be cleaning up and out by midnight anymore. We also get Juan Ritos now.
Yeah. Well, whatever he brings them, but you know.
Being served by a community member though, independent business, that shows to me some FGC self-sustainability that I am proud of. And man, his burritos are good.
Yeah, he's got that on lock.
It's a pretty good deal too.
Yeah, not a bad price.
Imported sodas from Puerto Rico and Taiwan.
Yeah.
Nice, I'm a fan too. Did you get a Juanrito today?
Yes, I did.
Good.
The jalapeno one.
Cool. Man, it's got to be interesting. Like, you were playing against Juan in Soul Calibur, and to know that, like, that person nourished you and fed you that day.
Well, you
Losing to
paid
him,
the
like,
man.
yeah,
So
right,
it's
you
like,
paid him.
he didn't feed me. I gave him, I mean, I exchanged money for services.
But if he also
yeah.
beats you at that point, is he like your parent or what? Like, or
I don't get
can he
any
take
of
the
that.
food back out of your
I
stomach?
don't get any of that. The only thing that messes me up with Juan Ritos is like when I do want to play him in games and he's making burritos, it's like, come on, man. I gotta make those burritos so we can play.
Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, it's all good. I mean,
cool. We kind of have to act more like a grassroots community.
I mean, let's see. How do I feel about that? Yeah, I guess I would like to see more people inviting people over now because, especially like when Saturdays are dead, I'm posting up trying to find out if anybody's opening their space up for games. Which is, I mean, it's kind of hard with people with jobs and everything. And
yeah, and roommates and stuff.
Yeah, roommates and stuff. It can be hard. So I don't want it to go to grassroots, but I do want people to be more open to the idea of like going over to somebody else's houses to play games because that's literally like that's how it was.
Yeah,
it used to be. That's just what it was the only way back then. And I think kind of in a way like Brian, everything set up like this, like a free venue and all this stuff, it's kind of like spoiled people in a way from having to have to do that. But at the same time, it doesn't. That like going over to people's houses hasn't completely gone away. We still do that for like Capcom Cup and like the Evo viewing party. And just yesterday we were at Tony P's house watching AGDQ.
Right.
So it still happens, but maybe it might have to happen more just to keep Saturdays interesting.
And we might benefit from some more of it going into this new era of lockout and can't open the building on Saturdays. Game On closed because it was not able to make enough money to survive. Even despite this, and despite the fact that the owners and employees were not able to take paychecks for months, they didn't tell us about any financial struggles. They let us play out our games with healthy consciences. Even up to the last day of games at Game On, the Buffalo fighting game community was still never charged a penny for venue fee at any of our weekly locals. Most weeklies have a $5 venue fee at least, and then maybe another optional fee for entering a tournament bracket. The only money Game On could make off of us is when they actually had formal events called TFGTs, or the Fighting Game Tournaments, or if they sold us food or drinks, or if some fighting game people for some reason wanted to play on any of their high-end gaming computers. Ironically, though Game On was constructed and imagined to be a LAN center for mostly computer gaming, the strongest and most tight-knit community that made Game On its home was the fighting game community, which mostly brought in its own consoles and monitors instead of using computers, which were what had to be paid for. While there were some members of the fighting game community that certainly did play on the computers at Game On, it was never the primary interest, and it was never making enough money. If fighting games' success as an esports entertainment franchise genre can allow places like Game On to exist and subsist, is esports then a good thing for fighting games? Floor is yours.
Oh, yeah, that's really hard. I mean, I think it goes back to that dichotomy I think I talked about earlier. Like you have to draw a line and make a clear-cut division of where are we going to lose culture versus where are we going to gain monetary advantage, right? So obviously the biggest positive that you can take away from FGC being integrated into esports, it's the monetary stability that it provides. And I mean, that's a good thing. No matter what, money's money. Money's good. But to me, you'd have to take it with a grain of salt. What does that mean? You know what I mean? In a way, you can compare it to artists and movies and music. Would the FGC sell out?
Yeah.
Would it lose part of itself? Part of its authenticity that draws people in so deeply and so passionately.
6 months after the Del Mar event, Jeff Ho and Skip Engblom would lose the very skateboard team they'd worked so hard to build. A year later, because of mounting business problems, they would close the Zephyr shop. It would never again reopen for business.
Jeff Ho and Skip didn't have money to try and compete with people that were trying to buy us out. And you know, I think it's kind of sad that we were bought out on one hand. On the other hand, you know, it's like, what does a kid do when you put a candy bar in front of them? And that's sort of what was happening.
That was you know, a hard one for me to deal with, because I could see that things were just going to cave in.
I think in the long term, it could be beneficial, yes. Absolutely, it could be. But along the way to that long-term plan, there has to be, like, you know, there has to be, I don't know, something that doesn't lose the identifiers of the community itself, the individuality that's associated with the scene, you know.
You think this is esports? You think esports? This is FGC!
If you think about it, the example you said was Game On. If esports or fighting game esports success was such a big thing that Game On could stay open. I mean, yeah, we would have stayed at Game On forever, I think, realistically, if that was the case. You know what I mean? It was just such a good place and a good relationship. And that was a place where we could be ourselves and we could bring the FGC energy. That would be an example.
And random people got recruited through Game On.
Right. There were so many people we brought in just because they were there, you know?
We talked about, you know, doing venue fees when we come every Wednesday, every Saturday. And my thought was, well, this is home. You got to pay rent where you live.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, this is where I want to be. I want this to, you know, I want us to have a home, no matter where it is, because no matter where it is, we're gonna grind, and that's always gonna be a thing. So it's like wherever we go, we're just gonna make it work. And like I said, if something else pops up, awesome. Just like I said, if we got to go to basements, awesome. We're gonna, because the thing about us and as a fan game school, we're gonna make it work.
Yeah.
We're gonna make it work. So
we just made the best out of a crappy situation.
Yeah.
Really.
We make the most of what we have.
All your friends are people who play these games and are really good, and you're all working towards an achievable goal at the same time. So, you know, house sessions are just a great way to just hyper-focus like the community as it already is at a tournament or at a weekly venue, right? It's just taking all of that and just like really condensing it down and making it personal and sharing it with other people. So it's always a great thing, right? So, and they, you know, it hops from person's place to place, you know?
Yeah, and that also enhances the community feeling, right? Like it's not just relying on one person to place. Multiple people host, right? Like we've been in your basement, we've been in Fred's basement, we've been in Tony P's house.
Right, and it's cool because you really get to know people at that point. They're not just players, you know what I mean? They're inviting you into their home, right? Like that's another step of connection that someone's taking. And it's being taken through the lens of competitive fighting games.
You were hosting house sessions because you also just wanted to be able to play and hang out.
It's true. A couple years ago, decided to do this Street Fighter 5 into FGC, into fighting game hosting thing full time. And it's been a wild ride. And I've learned a lot, both as a person and as a business person and as a community manager and as a leader and the whole shebang. But it is really important to me that I do things like the house sessions still, because there's so much of the FGC changing from what it was back in TGA days to what it was Street Fighter 4 days to what it is now to what it's going to be, that house sessions really are still important in that they represent a lot of the fun things about fighting games. So it's important for me as much it is for the people who come to them. It keeps it in perspective for me, why I enjoy fighting games in the first place. But to go back to your original question too,
of course,
so Tokyo Game Action is, I was very fortunate. Tokyo Game Action existed for a long time in many different locations, and I was able to experience arcade culture for a couple of years, including Tokyo Game Action was one of the only places on the East Coast that had day one Street Fighter 4 cabinets.
We have Tekken 5, Tekken 6 we're hoping to get in soon. The reason we held up on Tekken 6 is because we are putting our entire fighting game budget towards Street Fighter 4.
And I don't mean console day one. I mean Street Fighter 4 got released on arcade cabinets a year before it was released on Xbox 360.
This is our fighting game room that we have touched upon here. We're in the process of moving some things around and doing some renovations for Street Fighter 4, which we're hopefully be getting this month when it's released in Japan.
So if you wanted to play Street Fighter 4 when it first dropped, you could go to Tokyo Game Action, which it was Tokyo Game Action, New York, and I think I know there were cabinets in Florida. I mean, and just by saying that, I show that the amount of cabinets in America were, it couldn't have been more than 50, maybe 75. It was rare. They were expensive. They were 12 grand a cabinet, and they had 4 of them, 2 head-to-heads at Tokyo Game Action. So it was, anytime I'm ever asked the question of where I came from, Tokyo Game Action and Andy and all those guys were the fighting game, was the fighting game community long before I ever stepped in.
I never thought it would have been New Hampshire to have the fighting game arcade.
Yeah, small tidbit, arcades are very hard to open, even nowadays, and I'm pretty sure that was legally a bowling alley, not an arcade. But arcades are okay in bowling alleys for some reason. So
Right.
Little loophole.
When did Tokyo Game Action last?
So the sad part is Tokyo Game Action closed. It was around 2009. Don't quote me on that. It was around then. A sprinkler system went off. The arcade machines got destroyed. The whole thing, and there was too much. It was done. TGA was done. It was really sad.
Hello everybody, this is Nick from PressStarComic.com, and if you've been a fan of our Arcade Hunter videos, obviously you'll know of a place called Tokyo Game Action. Unfortunately, back in December, Tokyo Game Action suffered 2 floods, and because of this, they're going to be shutting their doors forever. This has come to a shock for all of us, especially for me, because Tokyo Game Action was one of the best arcades I've ever visited. On Saturday, June the 6th, Tokyo Game Action will be having a liquidation auction. The auction will take place at TGA 5 Summer Drive, Winchendon, Massachusetts.
But, you know, silver lining, if Tokyo Game Action hadn't closed, what ended up happening was that I really enjoyed it so much that I started to run what I called a fight night on Fridays at a venue called Game Universe. And I did that because TGA closed. And that's how I started hosting events. And that was, I mean, for the first like 5 weeks, that was me and like one guy playing Smash. Like, because I didn't know what I was doing, and I didn't know how to grow it. I just wanted to play. And the transition from arcade culture to console culture, it's night and day different. And you know, Tokyo Game Action can't be replicated. It was an incredible place.
One more thank you I do have to say, not only to the community and the TGA regulars that made this happen, I want to say thank you to every arcade operator out there that went ahead and imported Street Fighter 4. We appreciate the fact that you're trying to keep the arcade scene alive. And I think by having multiple Street Fighter 4 machines out there will help get the community back up to where it should be. And thank you for putting forth the effort. The community will respond, so just keep supporting the fighting game community and the fighters will come in. Thank you to every operator out there that's doing their best to support the fighters in the arcade scene. We're behind you, and you know, we're always here for everyone. So thank you so much for doing this for the community. I, on behalf of the community, appreciates it. So keep up the good work.
All right, Andy, thank you very much. GA, thank you very much. All right, guys, everybody here at Tokyo Game Action, let's get the games back on and get to play, all right?
So trying to figure out how to be able to play fighting games somewhere, play people that I want to play games that I want to play, and building something from scratch. I did that at Game Universe, and I've been doing that for, I don't know, 10 years, 9 years, something like that. while Dan and his traveling controller operation are clearly thriving at Balance Patch, Balance Patch is still a venue, and all venues, under a country operating in capitalism, are a business. The venue could be gone in a flash, just like hundreds, if not thousands, of other fighting game venues through the community's history. In the Boston scene, I already know of 3: Tokyo Game Action, Game Underground, and now Balance Patch. I'm sure there's been dozens of others in between. The Buffalo scene, obviously, has existed for long before Game On. Tracing back through resources I found online, and searching the bank of my memories since 2014, these are some worthwhile videos and photos of the Buffalo fighting game community at its former venues across the years. Looking back through old photos of events and seeing people that I used to not know back then, but do know now, is pretty mesmerizing. It's been happening all night as I go through this.
We're looking at the infamous Jug, aka Kenneth, aka Tate, aka the Juggernaut, aka the Beast of Buffalo, BB. You know this nigga right here. You about to do big things in Street Fighter 4. Tell him what you about to do in Street Fighter 4.
I don't know what I'm gonna do, but it's gonna be something spectacular. I'm gonna put on the show for y'all, man.
Like, always trying to be humble, pretend.
It's gonna be worth you $10.
You're gonna be on that big screen TV over there. See how it's small? They're showing something small. When Jug is on the screen, it's big. It gets hype.
Yeah, that screen too little for me, son. I need something bigger. Like that ain't big enough.
So this is the living prodigy right now, son. He came through, ran Pittsburgh. Came through, ran Syracuse. Came through, son. He just runs shit. So we're gonna see what he do. Hometown advantage. How can you stop that? So we're gonna see. That's the boy Jug right there.
Can't stop me now. You can't stop.
Before he gets hyped. Before everybody starts hating. Before everybody starts hating like it's Jay Wong. G Block, represent. Okay.
How's it going, sir? This is our first time meeting, correct? Yes, sir. You said what was your name again?
They call me John, bro. I got a lot of aliases. Go over and CFN. Used to be Guy Kyler.
Number one Bison Online?
Go Maru!
So you've been doing this for a minute. Well, regardless how you feel. I mean, you're in the same boat as these other guys. How do you feel with the potential chance to go on to represent at the finals in Washington, D.C., man?
I feel great, man. Just doing what I like to do, just
Because this is like the epic
cheeseburger
this is the
match,
epic
y'all.
cheeseburger match, y'all. Only B-Lo got this shit going down. They ain't got this at NYC.
What kind of cheeseburger is it? Is it a buck double? Was it a McDouble?
I think it's a Brio burger.
The Brio? No, it's a bro burger. That's what it is. The bro burger. The bro burger.
Yo, Fuddruckers burger, man.
Fuddruckers.
Yo, Fuddruckers. All right.
They got some
shit. Yo, Fuddruckers is legit. Legit shit. Yo,
Legit.
So
that's always hating on everything.
Celeste, you gonna be the book B-Lo hater.
Sometimes I just say I love that. It'd be like 10 people talking about something.
Yeah, Jug is filming you guys so everybody can fucking see this. Put it right on the internet.
If everyone's seen this on the internet, let it be known that Jug is an asshole.
Eric Devlin, member of the Buffalo fighting game community.
My name is Darian D. King Houston. I've been in the fighting game community for about 2 years now.
My name is Jacob Foss. I've been in the community for about 2.5 years.
My name's John. I've been in the community for maybe 1.5 years.
Clan Trade is a video game store in Tonawanda. At first, they just held monthly tournaments. One of our older guys in the community made a deal with the owner, and they let us play there on Saturdays free of charge.
I am King Kong. I'm King Kong. I'm King Kong. I'm King Kong.
Pick it up.
I'm King Kong, beat my fist in chest. I don't feel the pressure, show the world the best. I endure the pain, let the gorillas out, ignore the change. I want to go down for being a hag. Okay, great. Nice talking to you.
It's been an honor having served most of the community and let you guys all get to know each other and be friends. And we're gonna miss you all.
The remorseful, nostalgic, and somber postings of departures from venues litter Facebook fighting game groups and forums like gravestones litter graveyards. Death is a constant. It is the great equalizer, and we know no one is exempt from it. I am not exaggerating. Venues live and die like human beings. Blood flows through our veins like dollar bills flow through their tax returns. The building that hosted Game On may be turned to rubble in demolition in the same way that our bodies may be turned to ash in cremation. My memory will treat these two subjects with no distinction. In memory, I will do with Game On what I do with loved ones. Forget nothing, cherish everything. Members of the fighting game community will know that I am speaking for all of them when I say that we must cherish everything. And by we, I mean we, fully, collectively, all of us. Even the city scenes with the most historical prestige and opportunities, both New York City and Southern California, with their reliable population, numbers, economic activity, even they have dealt with the crushing death of their most treasured venues. They too know what must be cherished. They are FGC. They know the pain of the loss of a home for a community. In Southern California's case, with the death of Mike Watson's Super Arcade, the home of the California weekly Wednesday night fights, those hundreds of people who consistently go there, the thousands of people that have visited, each and every one of those individuals were socially judged out of existence by mainstream contemporary society. Super Arcade had to close. Given a second chance in a new city, the city of Azusa, California, members of the fighting game community from all across the United States jumped at the chance to attend the City Council of Azusa. On this day in 2015, Super Arcade's fate would be determined. Before I play the clip, I must ask you, what kind of people do you expect to be on a city council? We know young people are less politically active than old, and we know, if I may generalize, that the old make their political decisions in fear of the young.
The proposed coin operating video machine is not the right choice for the Edgewood Shopping Center and the surrounding neighborhoods. This shopping center has encountered and created many problems that make this arcade a bad fit. I'm a school board member, as you know, but I'm thinking about the students. They Gladstone High School, Murray School, Center School, kids walk by there, and what's not to say they stop there after school? They should be going home doing their homework.
How do you suppose this looks to potential home buyers when they visit this area? I feel that a coin-operated video store that would be open until midnight 7 days a week in this particular shopping center will have an adverse effect on this shopping center, the neighborhood, and our property values. Here's one from Seattle where there was a robbery took place inside the arcade, and the statement of the owner was, "We are very careful, we are a very safe environment. We do have security cameras, surveillance, and security officers on site. They never caught the perpetrator."
This is really old information.
These aren't as safe as they say they are.
And I just don't feel this is a good idea. The arcade is going to generate more crime and more problems for us.
But I'm still opposed to the placement of an arcade.
Longtime FGC member, but still younger than all the people speaking before him, Oliver Ling takes the stand.
What's your address? My name is Oliver Ling. I'm from Alhambra, California. And this community Mike Watson has spoken of, I've been a part of for 14 years. I don't drink, I don't smoke, so it's like as far as like going out to bars and stuff like that, that was never my thing. And so I always needed something to do like after class or after work, and it just turned out to be through the fighting game community. And so over 14 years, I've met a lot of people from all different walks of life. I've met doctors, lawyers, engineers, and dentists. It's like, this is a community where two people from totally different walks of life can become friends when they normally wouldn't, and all because of common interest.
We know that it's not young people bringing up the violent video games will make you a violent person argument every few years. Do you trust the city council of the small city of Azusa to not be afraid of a community made up mostly of young men of color? A perhaps intimidatingly homosocial community, a community whose lead game publisher and developer even accused of being mostly made up of people who would engage in the act of thuggery.
But I kind of want to get into the CPT rules. Capcom Pro Tour rules were just updated recently with some interesting, questionable, some not so questionable, but there were some interesting updates going on in the CPT rules.
So let me just say, as the resident black guy,
we're going here right away.
I'm going right in. I'm telling
Gotta
you
start
now.
there, gotta
As
start
the
there.
resident black guy, I typically don't follow many rules. However, I really like video games, and I plan on being at these events.
Yeah.
So if I'm reading down the list, and you say, you know, no pornographic content or anything that leads to it, no gambling, and I'm just like, man, this is not cool, you know, but it is what it is. If we want to elevate ourselves in the ranking of official business, these are the things that I have to give up. But however, there was a word that kind of
Stuck out to you?
struck a chord,
Struck a chord?
and it was thuggery.
That's right.
And I was just like, I haven't even done anything. I didn't even do anything. Y'all telling me no thuggery.
Even the game publisher thinks we're thugs in addition to the city of Azusa. With no authority figures on the side of the fighting game community, we needed an X factor. Some kind of hero needed to step up to this plate. One man on city council did. Enter Mr. Jack Lee. Enter Watson versus Azusa.
It's not our job to find him a new location. We can certainly move him in the right direction and suggest certain avenues. But
Mr. Lee? So it seems like there's not a real good location in mind right now.
I don't know, Mr. Lee. I haven't done any research on it, so off the top of my head, I can't say, yeah, right here would be perfect. I can't say that.
With all due respect, wouldn't that be our job?
You have anything in mind?
No, I don't, actually.
Yeah, I'd need a little time. I can't think right off the top of my head. I'd have to do some research.
That's why, with all due respect, if not here, then where? That's my first point. Second point is, if the city and the resident of Azusa has been speaking with the owner of this building, this property for so long, and nothing has been done, shouldn't we ask why? Is it maybe because we have no teeth? Mr. Watson has teeth because he can withhold rent. But looking at this crowd, they're coming into Azusa because of that. I mean, like you said, majority of the people are not from Azusa. So they're going to come in, probably going to eat before or eat afterwards. My thing is, I can't believe the little restaurant next door to that proposed location is not here to say we need to open this, because his business is probably going to grow tremendously because of that. He should have been here, actually. And so, of course they're going to go eat before and afterwards. And as for why it's open late, well, as you can see, majority of them are professionals. They go to work. They get off at work 6, 7, 8, go home, relax a little bit. Then they go to their after-work activities, right? If you have them closed at 8 or 9, by the time these people show up, it's closed. I've been in here for 11 years already. And so when I bought my house, I was 25, single. One day I went to Stater Brothers when I first moved in. I found some, some people, and and it sounds funny. I said, hey guys, what's your fun thing to do in Azusa at night here? I was 25, single, new to the city, right? I kid you not, this is what this person said, and he was serious about it. There's Donut Man. Just in case nobody knows what Donut Man is, it's a donut shop that's open 24 hours a day.
In Glendora.
In Glendora!
True.
So that's the hot thing in town. 11 years later, Donut Man still. What do we have to attract that next generation of young professionals? If you say Donut Man, Glendora is going to get that group then. So like I said, I've made mistakes before, and they have educated me, and I said, you know what? If anything, I want them to somehow encourage them to show up now, because I want that disposable money that they can bring from other cities to spend at the restaurants here. So we can keep waiting for some unicorn bookstore or clothing store that wants to open there. And it's like, but let's hold off to it. Let's hold off. We're going to have a retail store so we get sales tax. Or we have a current viable applicant with current market share, and you've seen how he does business. I mean, somebody coming all the way from East Coast just to speak on his behalf. That's got to say a whole lot. And if we partner with Mr. Watson, he's going to have the teeth to make sure the residents around that shopping center will have the clean place. Because, let's repeat this word track. If you don't clean up, I'm not paying rent tomorrow. That's the word track Mr. Watson's going to use. $5,000 a month, $60,000 a year. Is that power now? I think that's a whole lot more power. I'm pretty sure it's going to be a much cleaner situation after Mr. Watson says that. And of course, the gym's going to do the same thing now too, right? That's power. That's all I have to say.
The community was rejuvenated. At last, it seemed like there might have been a major breakthrough in getting Super Arcade to a new location and restarting Wednesday night fights. Again, one of the most important fighting game locals in the country. Unfortunately, Mike and Super Arcade would lose to Azusa once again. And to add insult to injury, Azusa would double down on supporting a family-friendly arcade nearby Watson's proposed location. The community once again did not fit into the city's ideal image. The political battle for Super Arcade would rage on for another 3 years past this point. In spring of 2018, Super Arcade reopened in a different location in Azusa than was originally planned. It should have been a long-awaited victory for the fighting game community on the national scale, and it was certainly a victory for the arcade scene and the fighting game arcade culture, but for the national fighting game spectator, it was only a Pyrrhic victory. It was a bit too late. By this point in 2018, Wednesday Night Fights had already moved to the esports arena, and Wednesday Night Fights and Level Up Live and the national attention of the fighting game community was very comfortable in the esports arena. This short video from 2016 shows the joy of the West Coast FGC having Wednesday Night Fights again in the new at the time esports arena. Many of the superstars of the scene comment in this.
We are here at Esports Arena, our first offline WNF in quite a while.
Yeah, Wednesday Night Fights.
Yeah.
Not no Wizzy Nizzy Fizzy thing.
No.
No.
Not
this is,
fizzy at all,
This is
no.
the original one.
Yeah, this is the original one. There's like over a dozen games here. Like pretty
Is there
much
that much?
any
I mean, I
fighting
know there's
game.
Marvel back there.
There's Marvel 3, there's Marvel 2,
Right.
there's BlazBlue, Persona, Unreal, Street Fighter 4,
Okay.
Street Fighter 5, both Smash Melee, Smash 4. Like if you want to, play whatever you want, then you can bring it out.
The return of Wednesday Night Fights, I think, is a really good sign for the FGC in general. It gives us a chance to grow the community and just bring all of the fighting gamers together.
It's the next chapter for me to see where I can take it, even though there's esports tagging to it and there's more sponsorship marketing behind it. it's still ran by the grassroots, and the same people are here, and we're family. And to me, it keeps me going to be able to still do the same thing I did from day one. And that's what drives me to keep doing these things. If I ever felt that we're going in a place where I can't do what I want, then that's not where I want to continue to do.
It's kind of interesting because when it stopped, it's like, oh, now we don't have to stay up late on Wednesday or whatever like this and all this stuff.
Yeah.
But you come back here and you're like, you really do miss it.
Alex Valle made the important distinction that while the esports arena is more esports, and thus turns Wednesday night fights into more of a commercialized product, it is also true that it is original fighting game community people that are in the positions of power operating Wednesday night fights at esports arena. Thinking this way, one could make the conclusion that Wednesday night fights at esports arena is just an extension of the fighting game community's grassroots growth going the right place. My personal conclusion is that esports arena hosting Wednesday night fights is still a massive departure from fighting game culture in Southern California. And it doesn't really fit with the fighting game community's historical character of always challenging authority. It is perhaps true that in the contemporary moment, the fighting game community no longer needs to challenge authority because video games in general are so commonly accepted in mainstream culture now. However, it's also true that esports arena has partnered with Walmart, and they've opened up several locations in several Walmarts across the US. Another conclusion I instantly draw is that I certainly would not be comfortable playing my fighting game local in a Walmart. This is both for personal and political reasons, and the personal is political anyway, but seriously, Walmart is an unethical corporation. And for a grassroots community that grew itself out of nothing but passion and care, to now in effect be partnering with Walmart, a monopoly business, is a little bit out of character, and it underscores the tragedy of Super Arcade's long absence. There's no one who understands these unfortunate circumstances better than perhaps Mike Watson himself. I imagined it was dismay at the fact that the FGC did not move back to Super Arcade after Watson reopened, which inspired Watson to go into direct competition with Alex Valle and Level Up Live, which is the group now responsible for hosting Wednesday night fights at Esports Arena. In this video, Sajam, one of the most popular commentators in the FGC, articulates his dismay at the fact that there is beef between Valle and Watson in the first place.
That's a good question, Berserker Mike. I'm really sad about Super Arcade and WNF running separately on the same day. Because for me, I would rather go to both. I don't care about the beef situation, it's between them. I'm not interested in it, right? The real thing about it is that it sucks to me that it's on the same day because I have to choose, and so does everybody else in Southern California. So instead of having 45 people at WNF and having a great tournament, we'll have 20 at one tournament and 15 at another tournament. And that's whack for the players who are trying to play and get better. It's whack for both of them because they're both losing business. And it's whack for everybody who has to choose, because I don't want to choose between them, but I will be choosing whichever way I go.
To this day, both Esports Arena and Super Arcade run their weekly fighting game tournaments on Wednesdays. To this day, the schism between grassroots and esports grows stronger, and it's most noticeable on the West Coast. In my conversation with Mira, a Wednesday Night Fights regular, she stated that her enjoyment of the FGC is in no way impeded by the growth and esportsification of Wednesday Night Fights. And, as we talked about earlier with Alex Valle, all the individuals there are still FGC to their core.
Yeah, this is the biggest serious scene that I've been a part of, and it's amazing. The people there are they're my friends. I've gotten to know them really well, and they're really supportive, and we're always pushing each other to get better.
Great.
It's a really great scene.
On the opposite historical coast, in the East, specifically in New York City, the oldest and probably the strongest scene in America, there's not as much of a cultural difference between the old venue and the new. If anything, the new venue is more FGC than the previous one, considering its creator is Henry Sen, the lead organizer of fighting game activity at the old venue, which was Chinatown Fair. But there is still an acknowledgement on the East Coast that the ways of old and the ways of new are going to be different. One similarity between the old and new venues of both SoCal and NYC is that it is a grassroots person in charge of both.
My name is Henry Sen, and we're at Next Level. I've been on this place for almost a year now.
More important than difference is the similarity between the rhetoric of Dominion and myself yesterday when I talked about how venues are like people in that they live and they die. Let it be known that I made this metaphorical comparison before I had heard Dominion say these words about Chinatown Fair, the former venue of the New York City fighting game community.
You would never expect for something to be there for so long to just close down, just disappear. You know, it's like somebody dying, basically. Chinatown Fair is like somebody dying. It's like you had a relationship with the place and disappeared. That's what it's like.
I definitely agree.
Prominent fighting game streamer and longtime top player Arturo Sanchez's words of introspection about Chinatown Fair in his heart and mind and childhood. These words also present an indication of what Art thinks will happen in the future.
I mean, I'm definitely sad because, like, you know, like that was kind of like a piece of my childhood that definitely like went away because I spent like a lot of years there. I made a lot of friends that I still know to this day. Like, I'm like these guys here, like I all met at Chinatown. So like it's definitely sad to see like a large part of like my childhood go. At the same time, like with Next Level being here, like I'm embracing the future.
It's gonna be the end of an era for me, and it's definitely gonna be a big part of my life is gonna be gone once CF finishes.
It's an example of like a dying scene, man. This is like the last of the Mohicans over here, man.
Because it's like every arcade that I've ever kind of felt attached to has gone in the past couple of years, and it takes part of my childhood with me. It's kind of unfortunate.
Next Level, under the ownership and leadership of Henry Sen, has been going strong for 7 years. Its weekly tournament, Next Level Battle Circuit, more commonly known as NLBC, has a flavor that feels more unfiltered and unchanged through the years compared to the West Coast, by virtue of the fact that the place is much smaller than Esports Arena and people are more cramped and crowded. That feels a little bit more authentically old school FGC too. Also, unlike the West Coast, it has no competitor in the same region. Chinatown Fair has reopened with a new owner, but the owner has rebranded Chinatown Fair into a family fun center instead of an arcade, and they do not support the fighting game community competitively anymore. Given the massive legacy of arcade and venue death in the fighting game community, it's easy to see how people may buy into the future and the stability that esports claims to provide.
You know, it's the monetary stability that it provides.
But the growth that esports promises can only exist so long as esports believes it to be a profitable enterprise for them.
It's been a great year, but through all of that success, we have had some really tough times and have learned some really hard lessons. At times we have failed our players and we have failed our fans. We've even failed the community. We have said goodbye to players who are great players, who have great careers ahead of them. I've spent the last year focusing really on the growth of esports as a whole.
Echo Fox's release of Scar would come just weeks before he would surprise everyone by placing third at the Injustice Pro Series finale.
Scar taking it! Scar taking it over Samij in this nail biter here. The nail biter reset. A reverse 3-0. It didn't matter that he was down 2-0. It didn't matter that no one thought that he could clutch it out, and he did.
The Injustice Pro Series finale was broadcast live on television on the Disney XD network. After clinching third place by upsetting Samij, interviewer Joshua Gray asked Scar for comments. Scar simply said, "Echo Fox, where you at?" Scar's story here is similar to this event with Brian F., where after making winner's top 8 at final round, he popped off against his former sponsor.
F, did you get the big pop-off? Whoa! Out of pools, winners side.
I've never seen Brian F like that ever in my life. He spoke to the camera, he spoke to me, he spoke to us, he spoke to everybody at home. What the hell? Who's he beating with? Brian!
Being a prominent streamer, it was only natural that Brian F followed up the event with a discussion of what motivated his pop-off on his stream.
I'm not about to get Echo Fox to pay my salary. You know, I'm going to stream. I'm going to get people who enjoy what I do supporting me. I'm going to go to events. I'm going to make enough money to go even. And if I have to call some people out on some bullshit on the way, whatever, because I don't need the old FGC guard and I don't need those connections that people talk about any player who's not like the Knuckle Dude, the Gachi Coons, the consistent like premier top 3 placers. They're not making any money from this shit. There's no, it's just not money. There's no money.
Brian was sponsored competitively by Ouyu before, so this is insider insight. Brian knows that the fighting game community is made up of individuals, and this is even true among top players, which is why it's so nearly impossible to be consistent. Conventional esports games are made up of teams, and with 5 people on a team, if you put the best people together and force them to live together and work together, you can probably get some pretty consistent wins. Those consistent wins can actually give an esports brand power. It is perhaps no wonder then that one of the only fighting game players that Echo Fox has kept is Sonic Fox, who was dominant across 2 games at once. Punk is on the opposite side of the same coin of problems. Where Scar was dropped just before one of his biggest performances ever, Punk was dropped the day after winning a tournament called Thunderstruck in Mexico. Rick Fox almost even had to cut himself from Echo Fox. Abhorrent racist comments from powerful investor Amit Raizada drove him to leave his own company. Only when one of the most powerful governing bodies in esports, the League of Legends Championship Series, demanded that the investor be ousted did Rick Fox come back. This raises huge ethical concerns about how the economics of the esports industry works. Top MVC players Ryan LV and Filipino Champ would be dropped by Splice Esports shortly after Marvel Infinite sold poorly on release.
Unfortunately, today is not an exciting one for me to make, but it's a necessary one. To let you know that we have decided that as of today, Splice will be leaving the FGC. This is not something that we thought of quickly or came to in a rash decision. It's something we were talking about for quite a lot of time internally, had a lot of discussions about how the long-term implications of being in the FGC affected the Splice brand, how it would fit into what we're building and our budgets, because sometimes it's just purely business, right? And how it fits the budget, how it is helping us build for the long term.
To these esports companies, we know that we are only in style for as long as these esports companies think they need to diversify their audiences or bring in a more diverse body of athletes. We've seen it prove true in other more conventional esports titles that when the higher-ups at the studios and companies no longer have any interest in running a pro circuit for the game, the competitive scene for it will die. So we know also that we must maintain our infrastructure and our independence and present that independence to whatever esports company has interest in us so that we may be put in positions of power for the esports company to represent ourselves to their audiences. In most cases, like when Evo was on ESPN, this has actually happened. In some cases, like in the debacles we talked about earlier at E-League or those reality shows, it has not. If it doesn't fit, as any good member of any nation does, we call it out in public discourse when we see it. For us, that would probably manifest in public conversations in the venue or on Twitter. Keep each other up to date and educated on movements, and don't let anyone who doesn't know what we're about try to tell us what's best for us.
I want to make sure that we don't have a king, right? That's from a business sense, it's a risk. From a personal sense of enjoying things, I like having the different styles. I don't want to see that stuff go away. So I like being decentralized.
And one last thing. Just remember who we are in the fighting game community, what we're about, what we do, how we fight for each other, how we fight each other. We're competitive, and we know the best place for real competition is in front of people, where competition matters most and people will react to it live. This is why we'll protect our venues and support our locals. The thrill of live competition with in-game respect on the line is like nothing else. Just to reiterate, this is not new information. There's also one more thing that I think should be reiterated, and this is our conclusion. Just as we do in the game, when faced with adversity, we persevere. We do the absolute best we can with the tools and skills we have. If each scene's collective of competitive players get together and do this simultaneously, we will have an unbreakable community. Because we know the golden rule. It's been spoken in this video 3 times, but it doesn't need to be said anymore. So I'll let the others say it.
We're gonna make it work.
Yeah.
We're gonna make it work, so.
We just made the best out of a crappy situation. Yeah. Really.
We make the most of what we have.
Let's
You think this is esports? You think esports? This is FGC!
You never belonged to me. Now I can see the light that you are. Never really controlling me. Now I can see the light shine. Oh, and I know it was blinding you. Say life can be long. Wanna know, it's true. When you say you gotta make me feel wrong. I know it's not the right time tonight. I won't move until it stops. Go back to the top. Back to the top. I'm not scared if you run to me. Lost like when you were mine. And you can take what you want from me. Just don't offer me your time. Stay. Life can be long. Wanna know, it's true. When you say I want you around, you gotta make me believe you are. I know it's not the right time tonight. I won't move until it stops. Go back to the top. Back to the top.
This is FGC!